Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Vanguard live stream. Going to be a great special episode today. Our very first ever gaming stream. We're going to be getting a little bit of gameplay in later in today's hour, couple hours. Who knows how long we'll be streaming today? But super excited about everything. Been a bit of a hectic morning trying to figure it all out. But we're here. We got everything to talk about. Got a lot of cool shit to discuss today. Really excited to get into today's news, today's drama, etc. Also going to be joined by good friend of the show, Mac from GoodPoliticGuy. So super excited to chat for him for the first time on the Vanguard. Really big fan of his content and tweets. So check that out. But yeah, super excited to chat with him. But yeah, we got a juicy ass live stream full of delicious topics to go over today. As always, yeah, where have we been at? Just chilling, bro. It's been a little bit rainy out. I've been suffering from some allergies. Same with Zach. Hopefully not the Rona. Just kidding. I think it's just allergies. But anyway, yeah, we've just been taking a couple of days off, but we're back better than ever.
Yeah, I got a bunch of fucking shit to talk about. Oh my god, I was looking at our stream folder. Gavin and I keep a folder of topics of shit that we always want to talk about when we're on air. And oh my gosh, did it grow over the past like 3 days. We took a little bit of long weekend for ourselves. As Gavin mentioned, we've both not been feeling super great. Wanted to recharge a little bit. It doesn't fucking help that it went from being like 75 and gorgeous outside to like 32 and rainy in like a 24-hour period. So yesterday all I did was like sip Irish coffee and fucking mope. But anyway, yeah, I got a lot of great shit to talk about. Shout out to our patrons. We're having a little bit of fucking stupid trouble with our patron shout out board, but don't worry, we're gonna show you guys some love at the beginning of the end of the show anyway. Check us out, yada yada yada. The patrons make our world go round, all that good housekeeping shit. But we know why you're here, and that's to get into some good beef with the Vanguard, and we have that in spades today, as well as some, good regular, not so wholesome news.
Yeah, so sorry about the patron screen once again, guys. I swear to God, by our next stream, it'll be up. For whatever reason, StreamYard is not letting me share my screen with Chrome, so it'll let me share other tabs that are open in Chrome, but not other windows. And since we do this shout out screen via our preview, that it doesn't look like it's working today. I can still try to pull it up one more time. But yeah, it's not looking great as far as the patron shout out screen. I know all you guys are just, that's your favorite part of the stream. But yeah, so sorry about that, guys. Like I said, I'm going to try one more time here just while we wait for some folks to trickle in. So you guys know I gave it the good old college try. Here we go. Let's see. Is it going to work? Is it going to work? Nope. Chrome has lost permission to capture screen. Fuck you, dude. Anyway, that's where we're at right now. So sorry, patrons. You guys still really genuinely deserve our thanks. So thank you so much. You guys keep the show going. And please don't unsubscribe from the patron. We'll promise we'll get that shit back up next week or tomorrow or whenever we're next live. But yeah, we got a lot of good stuff to go over. Some people in chat are talking about this Kim Iverson shit on the Hill. Did you happen to pull that, Zach?
Yeah. We do have that in for the show today. Do you want to start with that one?
We can wait till I'd actually be interested to get Mac's opinion on that shit. I don't really know all of his takes on, Kim Iverson, Ryan Grimm, all that. So that'll be fun to get into with Mac a little bit later in today's stream. Let's just jump right in actually today with this Anna Kasparian shit on Twitter. I don't know if you guys saw this last night. I was scrolling Twitter and saw that. Actually, I think you sent it to me, Zach. Let me show this to you guys. This is absolute insanity. Hasanabi, aka Hassan Piker, says Americans are so brain broken about crime and automatically assume that lenient sentencing in our draconian, inhumane criminal justice system means that you support the crime and the criminal rather than having a restorative, rehabilitative approach centering justice. And that's like literally the most common sense, obvious, correct tweet ever. Don't agree with Hassan on everything necessarily, but like obviously that's correct, right? We are very brain broken about crime as Americans. If you talk to your average normie apolitical person, they're going to be super gung-ho when it comes to crime and punishment. At least that's my experience as someone that lives in the Midwest. A lot of times something you'll hear from people is that we don't sentence to people to jail for long enough, that our crime and justice system is not intense enough, which is insane, of course, given the fact that we have one of the most punitive justice systems in any developed country. And it has directly led to the highest population that's incarcerated in the entire world. There's a pretty obvious, pretty direct link right there, as I'm sure you guys all know. Anyway, so again, pretty obvious standard tweet from Hassan here. Totally agree with what he's saying. In comes Anna Kasparian. Woo! What the fuck is this about? She says, we've seen the rehabilitative approach play out in California. If that's what you think works, we're in a lot of trouble. So she's chalking up all the issues in California. I'm sure she's assuming to the rampant homelessness, the high crime rate in cities like Los Angeles, tent cities, big, drug problems, etc. That's all because of the rehabilitative approach. Excuse me?
Yeah, what the fuck country does she think this is, for one? Like, this is so ridiculous. And this is par for the course for Anna Kasparian. We roasted her a couple weeks ago. Maybe it was a few months ago at this time. Time's an illusion. But she had this dog shit take about how, like, the rise in crime and how dangerous it was for homeless people to be out and about. And just because you might be confused because she calls herself a progressive leftist, when she said it was dangerous for homeless people to be outside, she wasn't talking about the dangers for homeless people. Okay, one of the most vulnerable, marginalized classes of people, literally people with no homes, no shelter, subject to every single ounce of the fucking elements. Day like today in Kansas City, we have a massive homelessness problem in Kansas City, as every major city in America does, that we do not deal with. And these people, sure, on a 75-degree day, you might be like, well, though, blah, 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 blah. How could anybody pretend that you're not at a massively vulnerable condition in rain, 40 degrees outside, all this kinds of stuff? It's like, are you fucking kidding me? This is NIMBY as shit, Karen energy, from Anna Kasparian, which is why I quote tweeted her from the Vanguard account. I was like, Karen Kasparian enters the chat, because like, this is the most ridiculous fucking thing, impossible that that you would try and maintain your progressive credentials and it just downright peddle in right-wing talking points. You think that the United States needs a more draconian, more cruel justice system? You think we're giving people slaps on the wrist? This is the most Fox News style talking points I've ever seen come from the Young Turks. She goes down to double down, and she's like, there's another tweet from her. When Hannah Tubbs molested a 10-year-old in Denny's bathroom and was eventually convicted, Gascon gave her a light sentence. She bragged about getting, like, this is all massive right-wing talking points, guys. Like, okay, am I simming for like a child molester? No. But what are you like? Is the only rational thing to say anybody that commits a crime has to serve forever in jail? Like, get them off of our streets. This person's dangerous. Obviously, you can take a massively incendiary, massively awful, grotesque crime like child molestation, and try and use that so we actually bring the hammer down more on regular people who get swept up in all of this. This is how the right wing fundraises for the cops. This is how they expand the police state. They don't do it by saying like, oh, innocent people are out here getting swept up in all this. No, they take the most vile fucking figurehead, in this case, like a child molester. Who doesn't hate a perverted child molester, right? And then you use that to crack down and make the rules more cold and oppressive in a country that already only represents 5% of the world population, but over a quarter of its fucking criminals and incarcerated. Like, that's ridiculous, guys. Come on now.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right that it's a right-wing talking point. Look at exactly the playbook the GOP is rolling out right now in opposition to Biden's Supreme Court Justice nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson, trying to say, oh, she's too lenient on fucking child, sex crimes, and she's too lenient on crimes in general. She let too many people go, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, the correct point to be making when we're living in America is that our sentences are far too long. The criminal justice system is far too punitive. Of course, you can cherry pick a case here or there of, oh, this person got off with a couple years too many, or a couple years too little, rather, such as this, particular instance that Anna seems to reference down here. But again, I think this is pretty outrageous to just straight up come out here and basically mock the approach of rehabilitative justice, when that should basically be the entire point of a justice system. Like, what is the point of having a criminal justice system if it's not to rehabilitate criminals? Like, do you think the answer is just to lock people in a box and throw away the key and let them rot there and be raped and abused for the rest of their lives? Like, Is that what you think a just, developed society should be doing with its taxpayer money? Obviously not. Rehabilitation is, or at least should be, the entire point of the criminal justice system. Obviously, that's not how it is now. In fact, it often just makes things worse. People that go to prison often end up offending once again because, whether they're struggling with addiction or mental health issues, those are only exacerbated by being in prison, by going through the abusive and traumatic justice system as we have it set up. So again, this is just the opposite of like a leftist or sympathetic, empathetic approach to the situation. Totally blows my mind that she's just parroting these talking points. And here she says, and someone says, LMAO is a satire. No, it's not. When people are getting stabbed to death at work and bus drivers are getting assaulted daily with no consequences at all, I think it's an issue. Yeah, obviously it's an issue, but can you really not stop and think about what the cause of a lot of these issues are? Obviously, sane people that have their basic needs met are not out here assaulting each other. They're not out here, stabbing bus drivers and shit like that. And the majority of criminals, not all criminals, obviously, there's some crimes like rape, for example, which is not actually a crime of desperation. Some of the richest people in the world are serial offenders of that crime. Think of Harvey Weinstein, for example. That's not a guy that has any, desperation. He's just a piece of shit with a lot of money and an ego complex. But when it comes to most crimes, they're either a result of desperation, like you think about stealing money or stealing food, trying to feed your family, etc., robbing a bank or some shit like that, or they're because of mental health issues. Again, most sane people that have their basic needs met aren't out here like assaulting bus drivers or whatever the fuck. So maybe instead of cracking down more on crime, putting more money into the police budgets, patrolling more areas that are impoverished, etc., maybe if instead of, funding that, we take those resources and fund people's ability to get their basic needs met, for their ability to get an actual job that will fulfill them and keep them, busy during the day, something to get some money in their pocket so they can feed themselves and their family, some treatment for their mental issues, which are absolutely ravaging the country. And of course, we can't forget that during the pandemic, not only did mental health issues go up, but also addiction in general, drug abuse, alcoholism, etc. All of these issues, which are only exacerbating these problems, which Anna's prescription for is just cracking down more, like Rudy Giuliani would say.
Yeah, this is so weird because, I mean, like, obviously, since this channel's inception, I've pretty much had many massive disagreements with Anna Kasparian, but it almost seems like this is a hardcore philosophy shift, right? Like, if you are not understanding that much, obviously you can find some fringe cases of people who are just, fucking gone, right? That's what the right wing loves to do. But by and large, Gavin, you're 100% correct that these are crimes of resources. They're out of fear. The fucking cortisol levels in your brains are on fire because you're stressed all the time and you're not thinking clearly, and that creates like a fucking mental health crisis. And that's what causes people to lash out and do dumb shit. I'm not simping for people who stab others to death on the bus, but is that happening like every day in fucking LA? Like, I don't think so. I would be shocked. Oh yeah, you could just stab your bus driver and get away with it. Those people aren't gonna fucking receive any punishment. It's like GTA 5. You just run up, stab the bus driver, get the fuck out of there, man. Nobody's coming for you. Nobody's looking for you. I have a hard time believing that's the way it is in America. Like, California hasn't been the Wild West in, I don't know, 150 fucking years. Okay, but rich yuppies like Anna Kasparian love to make it seem like it's hell on earth over there, where it's 75 degrees all the time, and you have to be rich as shit or poor as shit. Those are your two options in Los Angeles. I don't know. I somehow I just don't believe that the poors are the problem, right? Like, I thought that if we were leftists, we kind of understood that there were systemic structures that play here, that yes, we have free will, but there's a lot that manipulates us, okay? And those things are put in place by our government. They want to create a criminal element. They want to have a subjugated class, okay? Like, where did any kind of that analysis go from the Young Turks? Like, where is it? Gavin, you've been a longer listener than me, but I have to believe, at least at some point, through some of the rhetoric that I've heard these people say, that they would have been able to put out such a fucking, entry-level progressive argument. Like, hey, guy, I'm talking to my dad's friend who's a conservative, and he tells me, no, man, black people are just more violent. Look, how many black people got arrested in Kansas City versus how many white people case closed. Like, hello, no, that person is a racist, and I would tell them about all the structural fucking inequality that create over policing in black neighborhoods, that create disproportionate allocation of resources. I could show numbers too, guy, but it seems like she's just willing to peddle in this kind of conservative nonsense, which is fucking hilarious because her favorite thing to do is criticize Jimmy Dore for peddling in conservative nonsense. So I just think that this is all fucking hilarious. And also, Gavin, just so you are aware, I did verify Madeleine Albright did fucking die. And I think it's kind of a coincidence that I found that out while we were doing the story on Anna Kasparian, who, of course, once referred to it as quite an honor to interview the Secretary of State, and many describe as a war criminal.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, what perfect timing. At first, I thought you all were like trolling in the chat. War criminal Madeleine Albright just passed away. In fact, she did. In fact, she is dead as fuck. And as you guys might remember, yeah, Anna Kasparian gave her a glowing interview that was described, I think, by Aaron Matei as a NATO furnished interview. Let me pull that up real quick. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Or not. Here we go. Yeah. Here's the photo. Aaron, this was from a while ago. He says, your glowing NATO furnished interview with Madeleine Albright. I'm not reporting glowingly, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, there they are together. And yes, in fact, Madeleine Albright is dead. I can pull that up as well. Because yeah, what perfect timing, right? That's pretty fucking crazy. Here we go. Yeah, Madeleine Albright is in fact dead. So yeah, there we go. Crazy shit, crazy morning, huh? But yeah, thank you for the super chat, Zachary. Thank you also, Ariana, for the $5 watching from Illinois, St. Louis Metro East. Love when you guys air around 1 p.m. ish, so I can watch on my lunch break. And once more firing squads like in South Carolina. Yeah, that's fucking crazy, by the way, the firing squad thing. But yeah, thank you so much, Ariana, for chatting in from the St. Louis Metro East area. Obviously, we're in Kansas City, so not too far away. That's awesome that you enjoy the show and that you're able to get some entertainment on your lunch break. I also like watching shit while I eat lunch. So yeah, thanks so much.
One of us. No, yeah, I also like doing this around lunchtime. Gavin and I think that if we really get this gaming stream, long form stream, Gavin and I are trying out new shit, so you guys don't get bored with our formula, putting out gaming content, fucking doing interviews, all this kinds of good stuff. We're going to try and stretch our shows longer on the daily, first hour and a half, whatever, solid Vanguard show you know and love, last hour and a half, whatever, new kind of just chill, fucking relax stream, kill the pigs on GTA 5, whatever. So yeah, hopefully we're going to be live longer so you can catch us more often. And yeah, we also really have found a good niche spot at the 1 p.m. hour.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Ariana, for the $5. Thank you also, I'm a Phil American, for the $2. You guys play Elden Ring or not? Not yet. Hopefully soon, though. Would love to get into Elden Ring. The only thing I was wondering, though, is it only for PS5, or are we able to play on PS4?
Oh, no, you can play on PS4. So, yeah, Gavin and I did not want or have the fucking finances to invest in a PS5 yet. So, if I do find out that Elden Ring is only PS5, I'll be heartbroken. But I'm pretty sure I have homies that are only on PS4 still that have been playing the shit out of it. And also, the other thing that Gavin and I are just going to put out into the ether immediately, right? Because it will be discovered. We're not like quote unquote gamers, right? Like if we played Elden Ring, you guys would probably roast us in the chat for sucking so bad. But that's why we're starting with GTA 5.
Speak for yourself, bro. I'm a world-class gamer.
Gavin is a world-class gamer. I need to shut my mouth. No, I'm the dead weight on our team when we do.
No, just kidding. Zach's actually probably better than me, if anything. But yeah, that's why we're probably going to be sticking a lot to like GTA, Skyrim. Open world games are generally my favorites because you're not like forced to play the storyline necessarily. You're not forced to go through the motions that they want you to. Something I love about Skyrim, for example, is that you can just kind of explore go into different caves, fuck around, fight enemies, improve your skills, collect different weapons and armor and shit like that. And that's what I'm into, not as into the games that are like, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, you got to go through this, you got to do that. Like, I prefer to do it in my own pace and my own style. I know that's just me, but that's why I'm excited to play Elden World. As David says here, Elden World is open world. That's exactly why I want to play it. So even though, me and you aren't great gamers, Zach, I still think we'll be able to, enjoy the game, just kind of walking around, exploring and shit like that, if you know what I'm saying. But also thank you, Anti-Gravity, for the $5. Favorite quote from JD: Anna gave a war criminal a tongue bath. She 100% did, guys. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And what a softball she gave Madeleine Albright, the first female U.S. Secretary of State. And yeah, I mean, if you're going to interview someone like that, can't just really give them a softball, right? I mean, they're arguably a fucking war criminal. So, yeah, I totally agree. Thank you, Anti Gravity, for the $5, and also thank you, I'm a Phil American, for the $2. From Soft Games have kind of anti-capitalist themes. Not sure what From Soft Games is. Is that a company or something?
Yeah, that's the developer.
Gotcha. Well, we'll check that out too. Thanks so much for the rec, Phil. I'm a Phil American. Really appreciate that. So thank you so much. And also, thank you, Charles August, for the $6. Reducing suffering will increase happiness. Action is needed to reduce suffering. You guys are happy for a reason. That is 110% correct. Charles August. I 100% agree with that. I mean, it sounds obvious to say reducing suffering will increase happiness. Like, yeah, obviously. But it's very true. And when you do reduce people's not just suffering, but when you reduce their stress financially and emotionally, you see their happiness and their productivity go through the fucking windows. Like, it's crazy how much people are able to enjoy their lives more, be productive, participate in society, and just generally be good people when their basic needs are met and they're given an opportunity to do what they want to do and at least pursue their dreams, pursue what they want to do, and have an end goal in sight. You know, if people just feel like, oh, I'm never going to be able to accomplish what I want to accomplish, I'm never going to be able to make it where I want to make it, then it basically just leads to a state of misery and stasis. But if you give people even a path to where they want to go, not even just a direct ticket, but a path there, then it's going to increase their productivity, happiness, and ability to function in a modern, developed society in tenfold. So, yeah, I think that's 100% correct. And as we were talking about with Anna Kasparian, you know, like, we got a little bit of heat when we put out that video that you referenced, Zach, about her discussing anti-homelessness comments from a while ago. I don't remember exactly what people's pushback was, but essentially some were saying that, you know, like, you guys were being unfair. Like, she obviously doesn't actually believe this stuff, et cetera, et cetera. I think that we were 100% correct and that we've now been 100% vindicated. By the way, look at this cringy ass shit. This is from August of 2021. I'm glad our show has improved since then. But yeah, these were the comments. And yeah, I think we've been totally vindicated. We can listen to this real quick in light of the new tweets she has out. But yeah, ignore my fucking visage in this old clip. But yeah,
do think that there are progressives. I don't know if it's progressive policy, but progressives in places like California who have made terrible decisions. And so one of those terrible decisions is essentially doing away with anti-camping laws, right? Allowing people to camp out wherever they want, whenever they want. And if, like, we have a homeless problem in California, we have it all throughout the country, but it's particularly bad in California. And so the argument is, well, if there isn't public housing available for people, they should be allowed to camp out. Okay, but there's also a problem right now where there is public housing available and individuals will say, no, I don't want to take it. I don't want to follow the rules in the public housing. And so as a result,
I gotta jump in here. I can't listen to this. I can't listen to that without jumping in here. That shit fucking makes my blood boil. Do you know what kind of shit that they're talking about? They want you to live like a grown-up in summer camp at these fucking places. It's like, oh, be here at this time, go here at this time. It's like, hello, I'm a grown man that's homeless. I'm not a fucking child. You don't get to treat me like I'm a fucking prisoner. Yeah, that's why those people don't want to fucking go there. And also, that's the people that I'm speaking specifically for the people who do not want to choose that. Also, by and large, fuck that talking point. So many people are desperate for public housing. Okay, you look at a place like Kansas City, right? We are not the worst. We're not LA. Like, Gavin and I love it here because it's like the last bastion of affordability. We would not be able to get by on our show income in a place like LA or New York City, right? Just wouldn't be possible. But we still have a massive homeless problem here because the all across the country, because and this is a quick tangent, but because Wall Street has had like basically $0 interest rates, 0% interest rates, right? And they've been able to buy houses from underneath home buyers, right, all across the country. So the average APR for a home buyer, if you're fucking fortunate and you have good credit and you've been responsible and maybe, you know, had your parents help you a little bit, 4% APR on a mortgage, 4% interest over on a 10 over 30 or however the fuck mortgages work, right? So what's been happening is Wall Street fuckers, the tycoons, will go in, they'll give you $50,000 over the asking price, they'll waive all of your closing cost fees, and they'll just take care of everything for you. So of course people are going to sell their homes to them, but then regular people can't buy homes. So what happens to those people? They're forced into the rental market, right? Because after the 2008 financial crash, all of the low and middle and working class families across the country lost their access to like owning their home. So now they were all renters. And now guess what's considered an affordable fucking unit in Kansas City? Like an $800 fucking studio apartment. Okay. You can't raise a fucking family on in a 600 square foot fucking studio apartment. You just fucking can't do it. You're lucky if you get 600 square feet for $800. I know Gavin rented a studio that was pretty small. That was pretty fucking expensive for the price of it, right? And if you don't have roommates or you're new to a town, that's not really an option. Or if you're raising a family and you don't want to have strangers living with your kids, like we should have options for these people. And it's so fucked up because I was talking to one of my homies that actually does own their own home. They bought it during the pandemic, and I found out that their mortgage is like $800, and they have like a 4-bedroom house. And I'm like, what the fuck does that happen? Because you get a way better deal on your monthly mortgage than you do on rent. And like, you know, I'm not saying that it's wrong that, you know, $800 is perfectly reasonable to pay for your mortgage, right? But I'm like, holy shit, that just is not the same as it's not the same as like renting, you know, or you know, you have to spend so much more money to rent a house for, you know, with 3 bedrooms or whatever.
Yeah, again, I think this just totally vindicates our position earlier on. Not that it wasn't completely obvious, but again, some people were saying we took that out of context, or that, you know, her rant wasn't actually how she feels, et cetera, et cetera. Clearly it is, because again, she says, we've seen the rehabilitative approach play out in California. If you think that's what works, we're in a lot of trouble. So again, basically just blaming the entire issue of crime and homelessness in California, not on all the things that we just talked about, not on the skyrocketing cost of rent or the fact that all these corporate investors are basically buying up family homes and apartment complexes only to then, you know, double or triple the rent price on people that cannot afford that, further driving out the middle class in places such as California. It's not that, you know, it's not that at all. It's not the fact that the police are way too punitive, way too, you know, harsh on communities of color and communities that are impoverished, patrolling them nonstop and harassing people for no reason. It's not that at all. No, the problem is that the justice system is too rehabilitative, according to Anna, which again is absolute insanity. If you think about the fact that the whole point of the justice system should be to rehabilitate. Like, you can't be a leftist if you just believe in punishment without rehabilitation. There's no gain to society just from punishing someone, further traumatizing them, you know, making them more likely to commit another crime. That doesn't help society. How in any way does that help society? It only takes up taxpayer money to, again, punish someone, when instead that money could actually be going to rehabilitate them, which our justice system doesn't fucking do. So, you know, I just find this all pretty goddamn baffling. And yeah, you're right. Obviously, you know, we disagreed with Anna all the time, but even I wasn't expecting this line of logic coming from her, you know, because, you know, to be fair, a lot of the time she is on point. A lot of the time she does have, you know, perfectly intelligent sounding points to make. The other day she made a really good case against no-fly zones, for example. I thought that was, you know, pretty courageous of her to come out here and, you know, make the case against no-fly zones and why they're such a bad idea. I guess not courageous, it's obvious, but still, I wasn't expecting it, and she still did it, so that was cool. You know, she's not the literal worst commentator in the world, but you see something like this, and you're just like, what the hell is going on, bro? Like, how could you type this out? And I mean, if you want to maybe add some like extra context or explanation, maybe, but she really didn't. It's just like, nope. So anyway, totally disappointing in my opinion.
Yeah, it was complete horseshit, and it made me want to pull my hair out. And also, when we replayed that clip, oh god, it just reminded me of like, this is her actual fucking opinion on shit. You know what I mean? Like she has, this is something like a value that she holds, and it just shows what happens if you start making too much money, guys. It'll rot your fucking brain. You only want to be around rich people. It's fucking scary, actually, what happens to people when they get a lot of money. They only want to be around people with a lot of money, and then everybody else is a threat to them because they don't have as much money as they do, and everybody else is a criminal. Everybody else is dirty, bad, you know, a problem, you know, problematic, whatever. Like I mean, God, yeah. You lost all of your fucking credentials as a progressive person. You can call yourself a classical liberal now, but that's it.
Yeah, exactly. We do have a couple super chats to get to. Thanks, David, again for the $2. You will own nothing to be happy. Same sentiment. Also, thank you, Sarah Davis, for the $4.99. I'm trying to buy a house in KC now and just decided to give up because every house we looked at was under contract the same day. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, my girlfriend is a local politics reporter for KCUR in Kansas City, and one of her beats that she covers is the fact that it's literally like impossible to buy a house right now. And they did an entire feature on one guy who was able to get his house for buy a house for asking price. It was in Strawberry Hill, which is just like a stone's throw away from where Gavin and I live. And the only reason he was able to get it this is at market price, asking price. He did not get any deal or discount or whatever. This was because it was being sold by like an 82-year-old couple, okay, that was about to move into like a retirement home, and they just literally put a for sale sign in their front yard in Strawberry Hill, which is typically actually an elderly neighborhood. And then some guy walks up, knocks on their door, tells them he'd love to buy their house, blah blah blah. They sign it, get the job done, whatever. But obviously that's like a needle in the haystack. The vast majority of people are just priced out, and then they're going to turn all those homes into rental properties. And that's what they already did with a lot of the homes that are for sale in the 39th Street area over in Westport. It's what they've done a lot of in the area surrounding the plaza with those houses over off Rock Hill Road, if you're familiar with the Kansas City area, over by UMKC campus, so they can rent them out to UMKC kids or teachers or, graduate students or whatever the fuck it is. And it's a massive problem. And again, I can speak to it in Kansas City because Gavin and I have seen this shit happen right in front of our fucking eyes. But I know for a fact that it's happening all over the fucking country. Don't really agree with the dude's conclusions all that much, but Evicted, the book by Matthew Desmond, is a really good exploration and entry note into what's happening in the Midwest when it comes to housing crisis.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Thank you also, David McGee, for the $5 to participate in capitalism means to play by the rules the ruling class sets. 100%. And the fucked up thing is that the capitalist class gets their own private like enforcement, mechanism. They get the police to carry out their edicts for them, to evict you, for example, or to arrest you for using a plant to tweak your mental state. But we don't have those resources. We can't send the fucking cops after people when we're pissed off. But anyway, thank you, David, for the $5, and thank you, Hello Kintu, for the $5. I rent in KCK. Trying to rent in KCMO, it's literally the only way. Yeah, it's crazy how much generational wealth is being stolen from our generations because of the fact that we can't own a goddamn house. It's absolute insanity. And obviously Zach and I are, we're doing fine. Luckily, we're surviving thanks to you guys in this. But yeah, we're nowhere near able to buy a fucking house or even begin that process. Like, not even fucking close, guys. We're basically living paycheck to paycheck. And again, we're very lucky to have the jobs we do and have the support from you guys that we have to keep the show going. But it's tough out there, man.
Oh yeah, one of the goals, and this sounds kind of hokey, right? But one thing I want to buy a house in Kansas City. It's where I fucking grew up. Like, if I was going to buy a house, probably fucking anywhere, right? Like, I would buy it in Kansas City just because I feel like our patch of dirt is here. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. I've got some sentimental attachment to the place that I grew up. But the more you talk to people about how expensive that shit is, like, oh my God, it just feels like nobody that's like under the age of 45 is ever going to buy a house, but that's fine. That sounds like a normal way to facilitate a strong, robust middle class, is just have nobody have any savings and everything is maximally extracted from them in the form of their rent payments.
Exactly. And it does look like our special guest for today is here in the waiting room. Unfortunately, although I put it in the headline, it does not appear that Eve 6 is going to be joining us today. Might have to reschedule that for later. But luckily, Mac from GoodPoliticGuy is here. I don't know if you guys are familiar with GoodPoliticGuy. You may have seen his tweets. He has a lot of awesome viral tweets. I was about to say tweets on Twitter, but then I realized how reductive that was. Anyway, go follow GoodPoliticGuy on Twitter if you haven't already. I probably favorite this dude's tweets more than anyone else. Like, he really has a gift for, phrasing things in that pithy tweet-like, essence. I don't know how he does it. I'm not super good at Twitter myself, but he's also amazing at YouTube. He does a lot of great and serious coverage on his YouTube channel, GoodPoliticGuy. He doesn't get into the gutter like we do as much, more focused on just the cold hard facts, the stories as they come, talking about corruption, talking about, politics, obviously. Anyway, it's good politics. You know, he lives up to his name. So definitely go check out, subscribe to Good Politic Guy on YouTube and Twitter. And we're super, super jazzed to be chatting with Mac for a little bit on today's stream. Got some more stories to go over. Really excited to get his perspective. Without further ado, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. I appreciate the intro. Goddamn.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So I guess we'll go ahead and fucking dive right in, man. We did introed you a little bit, but why don't you tell everybody who you are and how you got into this political muckraking?
Yeah, I mean, you guys said it. My name is Mac. I go by GoodPoliticGuy on Twitter, YouTube. I might be getting into streaming soon, but still trying to figure out how to work that in with my schedule and all of the chaos of life and all of that shit. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I pretty much just do like daily videos and cover the latest topics that I think are most interesting, mostly focusing on like foreign policy shit from an anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist perspective. But yeah, go check it out for daily updates.
Hell yeah. Like I said, really enjoy your content, man. Really, really, you know, learn a lot from your videos all the time. Really serious, great commentary. So yeah, thanks for all the work you do. And thanks for joining us today. We're really excited to get your perspective on some of these issues. I sent you a couple of the topics we were going to be going over today. So I guess we can just dive right into some of those. I know this is a little bit old news at this point. We've been off stream for a couple days due to our, you know, allergies and shit like that. Just been feeling kind of shitty, but we're back today. And something that we missed while we were gone that I've just been, you know, dying at wanting to talk about is this whole episode with Dave Rubin. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, Mac. I'll put this up on screen. Here we go. So this is a tweet that Dave Rubin shared the other day, and it accompanied along with a video that we can play. But he says it's true, all of it. And he's talking about the fact that him and his husband have announced that they're going to be fathers of two children that are coming via surrogacy. So if you guys aren't familiar, surrogates are basically like if you're a gay dude or whatever, and you know you don't have obviously like two gay dudes, you know, they need a surrogate to bring life into the world. I'm sounding like Dave Rubin when he really awkwardly explained this. We can play that clip in a second here if you guys know what I'm talking about. But anyway, you know what a surrogate is. I don't need to fucking explain it to you. Anyway, Dave Rubin's fans, they weren't completely sold on this idea. Obviously, when your normal average person sees this announcement, the obvious reaction is just like, congratulations. Like that's fucking awesome. You know, it's cool that you're, you know, starting a family, etc. But needless to say, Dave Rubin's audience was not necessarily all on the same page. Here's just a handful of some of the responses this man got on Twitter. Don't call yourself a conservative if you celebrate this. How is this not illegal? Imagine robbing a mother of her child after 9 months, but it's okay because you paid her tens of thousands of dollars. Can't imagine growing up without my mom. Adoption not good enough for you. How is this okay? Imagine renting out a woman's womb. So just totally deranged responses here. Like, how the hell could anyone respond like this? And again, I wasn't even planning on us covering this story at first because I was like, you know, I did see a handful of conservatives, high-profile conservatives, congratulating Dave, and I do think that, you know, there's some cherry picking going on here. I was like, you know, I don't know if this is really indicative of the entire right-wing response to such an issue. There's no way people are this deranged, right? But the reason why I thought this had to be covered, why we just couldn't not talk about this, is because Dave Rubin actually decided to debase himself in the most epic and embarrassing, most pathetic way possible by actually taking the bait of these bigots in his own audience and essentially groveling to them, apologizing for his own lifestyle choices, apologizing for who he is as a person, all but apologizing, I should say, by going on Glenn Beck's show, who, by the way, is his boss over at The Blaze TV. And this is, again, just the most epic humiliation, the most, you know, cucked energy that I personally have probably ever seen from Dave Rubin. And that's saying a lot, considering that Dave Rubin is basically, you know, known at this point for apologizing for being gay to his, you know, conservative quote unquote friends like Ben Shapiro, who infamously, you know, promised not to attend his wedding because he was gay. Let's take a look here. Again, I thought this was totally insane. Glenn Beck basically has him on to address this controversy and to prove how open-minded he is. But let's take a look and just see the insane framing through which he goes about doing so.
I get why the right has these, what I would argue are often legitimate fears, because the left does not stop eating civilization.
Correct.
And think about what an unfortunate position that puts us in, because then someone like me can make an announcement like this, then good, decent, thoughtful conservatives, some of faith, maybe some not of faith, whatever it is, could reach out and say, boy, this is what an interesting opportunity, and sure, it's a little different, and whatever, all the love that you and the Blaze guys and everyone else are giving me. And then there's this other part that's legit, which is, if we move the line, they're going to keep going. And I don't know what the answer to that is.
Dave.
I honestly don't, because that has nothing to do with me and how I'm going to live my life.
I think, and this is why I wanted to have you on, because I don't have an answer. I am, you know me, I'm a deeply religious man, and my religion says man and a woman, that is the basic building block of family. We're probably the clearest church on this, because it's been in our doctrine for 200 years. So we're very clear on that. But that's marriage and relationships, and that's what I believe. But I also know God created you just like he created me, flaws and all. I believe I have a gene, they've never found it, that makes me very susceptible to alcoholism because it runs in my family. So does craziness, but it runs in my family. The same thing with things that I don't understand. And if we can't have a conversation about things that we don't necessarily understand and probably won't until we get to the other side, we have to just work it out together and be able to say, Dave, I disagree, or I don't know what the answer is, but I love you.
Yeah. So did you have an immediate reaction to that, Mac?
I mean, Jesus Christ, I kind of want to feel bad for him in a weird kind of fucked up way, but at the same time, like, this is what you signed up for. This is like the audience that you've spent all of this time cultivating. And I mean, Jesus Christ, like, he literally just compared being gay to having alcoholism or like some other genetic defect. Like, Jesus Christ, man, you're just going to sit there and take that and just look this man in the eyes and be like, yeah, I mean, I understand your perspective. We can just agree to disagree. It's like, this is not something that you should, your own self-identity is not really something you should be willing to debase yourself from and just completely go with whatever the deranged base that you formed in your audience is pushing for. But I mean, damn, that's absolutely wild.
Yeah, this has to be one of the most extreme cases of audience capture I've ever witnessed in my entire life. Dave Rubin's entire career arc, frankly, right? I mean, going from TYT to whatever the fuck he is now. I mean, clearly the guy doesn't have any principles, but it's still shocking. And, because if you're a human being with a heart, you don't want to see somebody just be treated this way for, something like their, sexuality or having a child or being in love or like these very human things that we all kind of resonate with and support. Unless you're Glenn Beck, in which you're a total fucking crazy person. I actually, because he's not on regular TV or anywhere where I have to come across him, I actually forget the like deeply entrenched like fucking lunacy of a guy like Glenn Beck. But you're completely right. Like he's out here trying to be like, I don't see you as a valid person. I don't believe you should have your child. I think your marriage is an abomination or whatever the fuck. But you are one of God's children, and I hear you and love you just like I love myself, even though I'm a crazy person. Like, what? I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, total insanity. I really can't believe that Dave Rubin has it in him to just sit here and take this shit. Like everyone that streams or has an audience or is a commentator knows that sometimes they're going to say things that their audience doesn't agree with or do their audience doesn't agree with. I mean, I could, there's a million times throughout our channel's small history where Zach and I have totally pissed off our audience, made them revolt against us. And we've had to come out and, clarify our position or be like, I actually meant this. And like, I didn't mean it like that. Never in a million fucking years would I ever sit here and apologize to you guys for like who I am. Like, can you imagine sitting here and apologizing, having to defend and grovel and be like, oh, this is who I am, not because of your political position, but literally your fucking sexual preference, who you are as a fucking person. It's so insane to me, again, that he would debase himself like this, and that he wouldn't just take a stand and say like, hey guys, like, this is who I am. You need to accept it or get the fuck out of my audience. I don't want to have an audience full of bigots. I don't want to have an audience full of people who I have to explain my lifestyle to like it's some sort of, crazy shit. I just find that absolutely crazy that he would be that cucked and allow his audience to bully him to such an extent just for the sake of grifting, just for the sake of making an extra buck, because clearly that's what this is all about. But yeah, had to comment on this story. I thought it was just too insane to let go. And as I said on Twitter too, we cover the left a lot on our show because we are leftist. We primarily consume leftist media. I don't fucking watch Glenn Beck. I don't fucking watch Dave Rubin. So the reason why we don't talk about Glenn Beck or Dave Rubin more on the show is just because it's not part of my media diet. I'm not consuming this shit for obvious reasons. But when I do sometimes check it out, like in this instance where it, gets in the news and people are talking about it on Twitter, I'm always just, my mind is blown. I'm like, damn, this is really the ecosystem that exists out there. And obviously, that's why we don't really talk about it as much, just because it's something that I don't consume, but it blows my mind. I'm like, with all the issues that the left has, and there's a lot of them, we talk about it constantly. You would never in a million years see this kind of reaction from a left-wing audience to a commentator or somebody, saying, hey, I'm going to have kids with my husband. Like, never in a fucking million years would you see such a deranged and bigoted response from a left-wing audience to that. This is an issue that solely exists for the most part on the right wing. And this is just, blatant proof of it, in my opinion.
I'd also want to see, just out of curiosity, because I mean, you can see in like the quote there on the tweet, he says, I get why the right often has these legitimate fears. And I would kind of want to know what legitimate fears are you talking about? Like, what type of like societal encroachment are you afraid of in this context? Because if Dave Rubin is willing to admit that like there's some legitimacy to the claim of like, social norms being infringed upon by the left, then, I mean, you just rewind the clock by like a decade or so. And, dudes like Glenn Beck, even what he said in that clip, wouldn't have even thought that, Dave Rubin had the right to have a husband in the first place or even be in a relationship with him. So it's like, what are these legitimate concerns of, leftist overreach in culture or something that he's talking about there? Because what I see is basically just a denial of Dave Rubin's entire existence, basically.
Oh yeah, I mean, what he's talking about there is literally the right-wing talking point that the gay marriage, gay relationships will lead to the slippery slope that then leads to people fucking animals and people fucking children and all that kind of stuff, which is so insane. Again, as a gay man, to give in to that talking point, to give the right wing that talking point, to validate it and say, yeah, you're actually kind of right. If we do normalize gay relationships and gay child rearing, then who knows what's next? The left is always going to go crazy with it, bro. As if your audience isn't the one that's lambasting you for your sexual identity. It's truly insane.
Yeah, and it also seems like he's really teeing up to throw trans people under the bus, because usually that's what comes from gay conservative commentators. Like, I'm just being real, is they'll be like, oh, well, I'm trying to draw the line here, right? He kept referring to this like, oh, we're not going to let it go any further. Like, oh, what happens next? Like, yeah, man, like that's a dog whistle to be like, I'm still perfectly willing to throw all of my trans brothers and sisters under the fucking bus, as long as you keep giving me your money and I can get little dopamine rushes when I see how many people viewed my videos and shit. I don't fucking know.
How many people actually watch Dave Rubin? Honestly,
oh God,
thought about that.
I think most of his clips on YouTube are like, I think a good clip for him is like 100K views to 150K. And a lot of his clips just kind of get like in the 20 to 50,000 range at this point, I want to say. But that's just on YouTube. I don't know how many people are actually watching like the blazetv.com and all that crap, or what other, platforms he's like syndicated on. I'm not really sure how you would add all that up. But on YouTube, I would say on YouTube, he does about as well as like TYT does, which I guess good for him because he left TYT. So now he's doing equal numbers to them on his own platform. But that's kind of the range that I would estimate.
Yeah, he's got like over 1 million subs though. So he's way bigger than I realized. Shit, man. I'm looking at the Rubin report right now. 1.68 million subs. Last video he uploaded, an hour ago, 8K, streamed 3 hours ago for 45 minutes at 38,000 views. His clips from yesterday right around 100K. So yeah, he's got an audience for sure. Fucking crazy people, I imagine, but they're there.
Yeah, and he was one of the first ones too to like, come on guys, if you're gonna start being a right winger, if you're gonna switch to the right or whatever, just be honest about it. I hate motherfuckers like Dave Rubin that have to come out here with the whole like, oh, I'm not a right winger, I'm an enlightened centrist, or I'm a classical liberal or whatever. He was like the OG classical liberal type. Like, bro, just admit what you're doing. It's not that hard.
Well, that's the whole gag. The conservatives, audience base, the viewers, a lot of people fucking love that shit. It's like red meat. It's like, oh, I used to be a leftist, but then the libs got so crazy. They got so crazy. They just fucking love to hear that shit. It's just jerking them off. It's like, oh yeah, the libs are so crazy. Oh, like, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's fucking insane. But that is literally how Dave Rubin built his entire career, right? Like any boomer that figured out how to get on the internet, he was going to tell them how crazy the libs were and how he survived from the front lines of liberalism, only to come back as a valiant, staunch defender of enlightened conservatism, or whatever the fuck he calls it.
Yeah, there's another hilarious Dave Rubin thing I wanted to quickly show too, if I can. He goddamn, it was like, oh, I'll try to find it while we move on to our next story, because I don't want to like awkwardly sit here searching through Twitter trying to find it. But essentially he used the Lord's name in vain on Twitter. He was like Jesus Christ, bro. Or, you saw that?
Yeah.
And then,
oh, I should have worded that so differently. My deepest condolences.
Yeah, because he got called out by some other like Christian conservative commentator, and they were like, we love you, Dave, but this is really wrong, and you shouldn't take the Lord's name in vain. And he was like, I'm sorry, you're right. I should have worded it differently. And it's like, bro, you literally wrote and published a book called "Don't Burn This Book" about how you were all anti-cancel culture and how the left was the ones that are in favor of censorship and like how free speech is under attack. And then here you are, you can't even say Jesus fucking Christ without your own audience wagging their fingers and pearl clutching at you. And that's another thing, guys. It's like I said, we cover the left a lot. Obviously, we talk a lot about the left and its issues, but don't get it twisted. Pretty much all the issues we talk about the left having, the right wing has in spades, in tenfold. And this whole episode of Dave Rubin is just such perfect proof of that. Thanks, David, for the $2. Centrism is complacency. Yeah, I totally agree. And again, I don't even know exactly what Dave would describe himself as, but it's just, he's just a normie conservative at this point, which is why it's so funny that he even refers to himself as some sort of like enlightened liberal or classical centrist or whatever the hell. Did want to move on to another story though. This is one that might be right up your alley, Mac. Really excited to get your opinion on this one, because it's something we've been talking about actually a little bit on and off on the Vanguard for a while, and that's the candidacy of Pennsylvania's Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman. I don't know if you're familiar with Fetterman, Mac, but according to Connor Lamb, his Democratic opponent, according to his own super PAC, Lamb is being crushed by John Fetterman by 30 points, and also is crushing Dr. Oz, the Republican candidate, in the general. Here it says, a memo circulated by a pro-Connor Lamb super PAC warns he's 30 points behind. So that's that's hard to make up, to be honest. And the Dem voters don't yet see Fetterman as the liberal he is. It also suggests that the Pennsylvania Senate primary might get rough. It shows attacks tested against Fetterman. And obviously, you guys watching the show know that we're not huge on the Democratic Party. For the most part, I choose to vote for like Green Party candidates and stuff like that, especially at like the presidential election. I'm not voting for fucking war criminals like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. But every once in a while, there is a diamond in the rough. And I think that John Fetterman is one such diamond in the rough. I've been following this guy for a couple of years now. I love his personality. I think he has a real charisma to him, especially when you compare him to the slate of just pathetic, milquetoast Democrat rising stars that they have on bench, people like Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar. John Fetterman just takes up all this attention in the room. He's this big guy with a big personality, and the only reason why I like him, besides those things, is that he actually has the policies to back it up. He's 100% correct on all the issues that he's running on. He's very pro legalization. He's anti-corruption. He's not taking super PAC money, et cetera, et cetera. We can go through his issues if we need to, but Anyway, he's a good candidate. I genuinely hope that he wins the Democratic primary in Pennsylvania for the Senate seat and goes on to defeat the Republican who most likely will be Dr. Oz. In fact, I even have said on the show that I think he would be potentially a good candidate for the 2024 presidential cycle. If there's any Democrat that I could potentially see myself getting excited about, it could be Fetterman. But the Democratic Party is doing what the Democratic Party does best, and they're going to try to kneecap Fetterman for being too far left, for being too radical. This article outlines how they plan on attacking him as a radical socialist. What's your response to this? And do you know anything about Fetterman? Do you share my positive feelings about him, or do you think I'm off base here?
No, I mean, for the most part, I definitely think that, especially relative to other corporate Democrats, that he's definitely, up there in terms of recent history that I've seen. But I mean, yeah, like you said, I mean, this whole entire, the way that they're framing a lot of these arguments, I'm just looking at this article right now. I mean, they say like, he supports far left policies like a $34 trillion government takeover of healthcare. And, just framing all of these things in the same ways that we've heard liberals and Democrats frame these things, especially in the 2020 Democratic primary as well. It's like, okay, I mean, you could call it a 34 scary socialist takeover of the health insurance system, but Medicare for all, verifiably cheaper than our current healthcare system, the most expensive and least efficient in the world. $34 trillion takeover of healthcare. Well, how much is our healthcare system costing right now? How many Americans go bankrupt every year due to medical bills, etc.? So just completely corrupt, disingenuous framing that only somebody who's being bribed by the health insurance companies would be using, but not anything unexpected from a guy like Connor Lamb. But again, I mean, you see there 30 points behind. Like, this shit is not even close. Like, it's not even close. And, direct contradiction to what we typically hear in moments like this. If it was the reverse and Connor Lamb was up by 30 points, they'd be telling John Fetterman to drop out of the race and endorse him and say, oh, well, you're being destructive right now and you're only helping the Republicans. And meanwhile, I mean, literally, you go look at the quotes in towards the bottom of this article, and the representatives for Connor Lamb's campaign, they put out this statement. I forget exactly how they phrased it, but they basically said, like, John Fetterman seems to think that only Fox News conservatives oppose all of those different things that we just listed with, healthcare, Medicare for all, or defunding the police and all these other things that they're using as scare tactics, basically. And I mean, you just see the way that they're disingenuously framing this and really putting themselves closer to conservatives and Republicans than to a guy like John Fetterman, who's literally just running on policies that are overwhelmingly supported by the American people and by people in Pennsylvania. It's like, you're literally just saying the quiet part out loud and saying that you are a conservative, or at the very least that you would rather a conservative win this election than John Fetterman win this election, even though, again, he's nothing radical, nothing crazy. He doesn't go nearly as far left as I would personally like, but he just has some very basic, like, popular policies that he's making the center of his campaign. And that's exactly why he's up by 30 points.
I also think it has a lot to do with the way that he presents himself, right? So when you look at John Fetterman, and he's big, he has working class energy, he wears shorts when it's 20 degrees outside with a big Carhartt coat, he like spreads his legs wide as shit when he's being interviewed on CNN. Like, he doesn't care. He's not in this for the optics, right, of like being like a trim Democratic candidate, right? Because that would lose in Pennsylvania, right? It does time and time again. And you're right, like, across the board, politically, he's not as to the left of where I am, but I just think he's infinitely to the left of a guy like Connor Lamb, which is why Gavin and I have, put our fucking weight behind him a little bit, whatever little weight we have here at the Vanguard, we fucking throw his way. And I think that, packaging, these Democrat ideas as working class issues does so much better when you have a working class guy that's telling people about it. You know what I mean? So John Fetterman shows up to a construction site. He's not out of place, right? He's talking to all the guys as they get off work. He's talking shit about what fucking bothers them, like what, causes problems for them. He's like, yeah, man, no, we got to get you guys some cheaper healthcare. That's a big burden on people. We got to get you guys better pay. We got to get hazard pay. We got to start taking care of people in this country, reinvest in the working class. That's a message that resonates a lot with people, and it's going to land way more from a guy like John Fetterman. Even I think if Connor Lamb was saying the exact same shit, right? Because Connor Lamb just looks like a liberal that you can't trust. You know what I mean? And you know, we can parse through, you know, John Fetterman. Obviously, I'm not arguing that he's like the fucking perfect candidate, but I just think if you stack them up next to each other, the pros over on John Fetterman's side are it's not even close. It's not even comparable to the number of cons you have by Connor Lamb. And frankly, I think that John Fetterman would absolutely destroy not really a Dr. Oz in the Senate race. And then I think that Connor Lamb would lose.
Yeah, that's the most outrageous thing about this. That's truly the most outrageous thing about it. Here, the Democrats have a candidate that would obviously, and the polling bears it out, crush Dr. Oz, who is, it's insane to even think that he's running. I have to keep reminding myself that that's actually something that's happening. But yeah, Dr. Oz will likely be the Republican nominee. Here we have a poll showing that that Fetterman could easily crush this guy. And again, if the Democrats were at all interested in actually winning, not only would they be putting their weight behind Fetterman, but they would be, you know, remaking themselves in his image. This is someone that clearly is connecting with the voters. He's talking about the issues that matter to people. As Zach said, he presents himself as a working class person. He doesn't always just wear suits and ties and, you know, $100,000 outfits. He is comfortable appearing just like a normal working class person. And again, not that he doesn't have his flaws. I'm sure I don't agree with him on everything. I'm sure I would go further to the left as well. But again, he's running on basic common sense issues that most people in the Democratic base want to see enacted. He's actually running on an agenda of change, on an agenda of let's actually do something. I'm actually going to, you know, take your votes and do something with it. Now we'll wait to see if that actually happens. But I will remind you guys that this man has experience. He is the lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania and has done a really good job. He was also the mayor of Braddock, Pennsylvania, which was a totally devastated town that had a lot of jobs shipped away. You know, Pennsylvania has a lot of communities like that have just been devastated by the trade deals. And he did a really good job as mayor of Braddock, helping to bring some of those jobs back and, you know, restore the community a little bit. So, you know, this guy does have some experience behind him. It's not like he's even some crazy socialist out here. So there's no reason the Democrats should be trying to crush him in the way that they're about to. We'll see if he actually wins. Hopefully he does. As Kevin points out, if Fetterman loses in the regular election, New York Times will again frame it as why can't progressives win, without mentioning anything about Lamb's PAC. And we see this over and over again, guys, with the Democratic Party, which is why we can't take this for granted. We saw this happen in Zach and I's home state of Kansas with candidate Brent Welder, who was crushing the primary polling. He was, you know, easily poised to win the primary, until at the last minute, all this dark money came in, including from the super PAC Emily's List that flooded the campaign in favor of Sharice Davis, who ultimately won the spot and is now in the House of Representatives. And Sharice Davis is basically an extremely milquetoast corporate Democrat in the same mold as Connor Lamb. Of course, she's not the kind of Democrat that really is all that appealing to anyone other than the affluent, you know, voting district of Johnson County, where essentially she won that race. But we see this all over the place. We saw this with Nina Turner's race. You know, she had a giant lead in the polls too, until they started funding the shit out of her opponent, Chantel Brown. And now we're seeing it again with Fetterman, who is proven via the polling to be a winner. This is the guy you should be funding. This is the guy you should be, you know, choosing essentially. And no, they're going to try to crush him in favor of milquetoast centrist Connor Lamb. So, you know, it's just totally stupid. And again, if the Democrats had any goddamn sense in their mind, they would take a look at their slate. They would take a look at their bench of candidates, their rising stars, so to speak. We got Kamala Harris, got Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar. I'm sure I'm missing a couple, but these are like the least exciting possible candidates. These are the kind of candidates that the American people have and will reject absolutely if given the chance. They will 100% vote for
have already rejected.
Exactly. And they will 100% vote for Republican if it comes down to it, especially if it's a faux populist Republican, someone like Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis. There's no way in hell that Pete Buttigieg or Kamala Harris would win that election. Then you got a guy like John Fetterman, who's running on a populist message. He clearly knows how to connect with the people. Lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania, which is a state that the Democrats desperately need to win if they're going to do well in 2024 and beyond. And they're just completely totally turning the cold shoulder to him, if not straight up attacking him, as we're going to see in the coming months. So again, this is just proof of how fucking broken and stupid the Democratic Party is, how they work against their very own interests and the interests of their voters and electorate, all for the sake of crushing actual left policies, or even the potential of left policies being presented in the halls of Congress or the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, I think that honestly we've seen this playbook go before or go and be run before. I will be interested to see how it kind of all pans out with Fetterman once we do start seeing if he can withstand the fucking relentless deluge of fucking corporate influence, and now that they really gear up and start to tar and feather him, and um I don't know. 30 points is a lot, but I've seen 30 points go before. I don't know. It's weird. Like, you want to be enthused and you want to be excited about this, and I will be if he wins the primary. But I don't know. I have very little trust left in the Democrats to not do something shady that ultimately gets Connor Lamb the W.
I honestly just hope he just leans into everything and doesn't try to like run away from any of these things, because the messaging won't work. Like, if you just have some boring hollowed out corporate Democrat who's going out there and saying everything about his agenda is radical, I mean, all you have to do is just turn around and say, I mean, no, if you think a $15 minimum wage, or a minimum of a $15 minimum wage, or universal healthcare that's free at the point of service, or investing in renewable energies and creating millions of good paying union jobs, and go down the line, you can just advocate for your own policy agenda as he has been doing, and those attacks are just gonna fall flat, because at the end of the day, I think people care about the material improvements to their lives much more than they care about scary labels like socialism.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that Bernie Sanders was great evidence of that. Obviously, he didn't, he wasn't able to secure the nomination, but it's particularly if you look at the way that, voters broke down after the 2016 presidential primary race, there were a lot of motherfuckers that were into Bernie that ended up voting for Donald Trump, right? Because if it was either this like interesting, like materially beneficial platform of Bernie Sanders that offered them things like the potential at reduced or free healthcare costs, the potential to go back to college, X, Y, or Z, whatever part of the platform spoke to them specifically. And then they realized that under Hillary Clinton, there was no way that would happen. So they turned around and, misguidedly in my view, but in reality they did what they did, which was vote for Donald Trump. So we can either cast these voters aside and give them to the right wing to be preyed upon like Donald Trump would, or a Trumpian figure, DeSantis, whoever the fuck it is, or we could provide them with an actual alternative where meaningful change is going to be explicitly take place in their lives, and then potentially entice them to vote for the Democratic candidate.
Yeah, and just in case anyone is listening to this being like, why are you getting excited about Fetterman? He doesn't seem all that great to me. Let's just take a look at the first couple minutes of this little news segment from CBS Sunday Morning, just so you guys can get a sense of who Fetterman is, what his vibes are. Because again, this is like pretty much the only Democrat left, to be completely honest. At the national level, at least. I'm sure there's some, city council members and stuff like that. But like when it comes to national presence Democrat, this is one of the very few that I actually can get a little bit excited about and be like, maybe if this guy takes a crack at it in like 2024, if he wins the Senate race and can really embolden the progressive movement, maybe. I mean, it's a distant hope, and it's so hard to get excited about anything like that after what we saw happen to Bernie Sanders twice. But again, this guy was lieutenant governor. He is lieutenant governor, mayor of Braddock. If he becomes a senator from Pennsylvania, which obviously is a swing state, then maybe that's just a tiny bit of hopium for us as a movement. So let's check this out. Again, we can just watch the first couple of minutes here and then move on to our next story. So bear with me if you guys already know about Fetterman, but I think it's worth playing this just so you guys might get some more context.
Over the coming weeks, we'll be talking with some political figures who, by any measure,
You've described yourself as Governor Wolf's anger translator.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, just look at me. the contrast between myself and the governor is almost comical, when we're standing next to each other.
At 6'8", John Fetterman, the Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, looms tall both in person and in politics.
The Senate will now come to order. The president can sue a ham sandwich. He can send 1,000 lawyers to Pennsylvania.
The 51-year-old Democrat gained national attention.
Lieutenant Governor Stone Cold is absolutely right.
For his brash and cutting defense of Pennsylvania's vote against false claims of fraud.
All they have is lies. They've had over 3 weeks now to come up with anything concrete.
Especially on Twitter, where he's even more outspoken.
Getting on Twitter every morning is like starting the day with a dog turd and motor oil smoothie. It's horrible. You gotta form that phalanx and push back against that. And I do that in a way that mixes kind of humor and mockery with cold hard facts.
One cold hard fact is that John Fetterman is a blunt talking, self-described progressive intent on also breaking through with swing voters in the Rust Belt. His pet issues include a higher minimum wage.
If you believe that a human being should toil for $7.25 an hour, vote for the other person.
And legal marijuana, which he says is a winner for either party. You called it a political bazooka.
Yeah, they're arguing over these small wedge issues when they're leaving the bazooka of legal weed, they're on the table for the other side to grab. Like South Dakota, arguably the most conservative state in our country, voted for legal weed straight up and down on the ballot.
In a state that has, a severe opioid problem, why you're talking about legalizing another drug?
Because it's not a drug, it's a plant. It's a gateway to finding a completely natural alternative to the kind of relief that had brought so many people into this toxic spiral with opioids in the first place.
So yeah, I think you guys get the idea. I think the dude's based, again, definitely has his issues. I don't agree with everything he's ever said, obviously, but if the Democrats had any goddamn sense in their brain, they'd try to remake their party in that dude's image, restore it to its former glory of being a labor party, a union-friendly party, anti-corruption party. And again, he's totally right, obviously, about pretty much everything he said there. But I think especially, talking about the complete missed opportunity that the Democrats have failed on, which is legalizing cannabis. We look at Joe Biden right now with his flailing approval numbers that admittedly have been slightly bolstered by the wartime effect of what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. But I mean, what an obvious way to bolster your approval ratings. What an obvious way to actually do something with your executive powers. Something that's not just popular, by the way, with the Democrats, but with the Republican and independent voters as well. And for a guy who's clearly as horny for bipartisanship as Joe Biden is, it's just mind-blowing that he won't take that obvious, position and just do what the American people are begging him to do. Fetterman understands that clearly, as he does many other things, such as that being in favor of a higher minimum wage will make working class people more likely to support you. Again, obvious stuff that seemingly the rest of the Democratic Party is just totally clueless on.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if he does end up losing the race, at least he'll make a great alternate for Joel Embiid and the 76ers. 6'8", that motherfucker. I mean, why is he not playing basketball? I'm kidding.
Anyway, we can move on to our next story. Yeah. Do you have something you wanted to talk about, Zach?
Yeah, I thought a good way of segueing into the little bit of a debate that we saw on Rising this morning. Mac, I don't know if you saw it. There was a little bit of an interesting spat between Ryan Grimm and Kim Iverson, and over the what's the U.S. involvement in Ukraine. But I wanted to tee up this story by talking about one of the most base tweets I've seen about the war so far, the war in Ukraine, and how you can understand this and process this as a leftist. Gavin, can we pull up the Michael Moore tweets thread from the other day? Gavin put me onto this, but I thought it was one, guys, sometimes we have to come on here, and it breaks my freaking heart, and critique Michael Moore because he'll say some like crazy liberal shit about how we all just need to give Kamala Harris another try, or like Michelle Obama could unite the party if she ran for president. I mean, just stuff that hurts me on the inside. I'm like, how are you the person that made Fahrenheit 9/11? How are you the man that made capitalism love story? But sometimes he comes out and you get a little glimpse of Michael Moore at the Oscars, right? Which was probably my favorite combined pop culture event of the millennium. But yeah, let's just go ahead and read this really quickly because it's a long thread. But I think he makes a lot of good points, and it really restored my faith in Michael Moore's commentary. I'll just say that. Let's see. All right, one, let me say this again to those who care deeply about the Ukrainians and want to help them by starting World War III. Since 1945, whenever the U.S. goes to war, it's never good. Media, politicians, and elites stop manipulating the public by showing the Ukrainians as weak. He then continues, if we can scroll down a little bit. And defenseless, armed only with Molotov cocktails, rakes and hose, and wooden guns. The same video of the same bombed buildings on a continuous loop. The same line of stalled Russian tanks over and over and over. Why are you trying to drag us into war from Vietnam? Let's see here. It's all good. I got it. From Vietnam to Iraq, we know your lies. Tell the truth. Putin is losing. You told us he'd take the capital in 3 days. A month later, this is where Putin stands. More Russian troops have been killed in Ukraine in less than 4 weeks than all the Americans killed in the entire 20 years of the Afghan-Iraq war. The Ukrainian resistance has already killed 5 Russian generals. Its defense ministry says they have downed nearly 80 Russian aircraft plus numerous Russian helicopters. Over 380 Russian tanks have been seized or destroyed. How'd that happen? Because Ukraine has the 3rd largest army in Europe, fully funded and trained by us and NATO, between 2 to 3 billion of your tax dollars since 2014. The Ukrainians are doing exactly what the Vietnamese and Iraqi did when they were invaded. They fought back and defeated the world's #1 superpower. The last thing the Ukrainians need is the U.S. sending in the jet bombers. Speak out against U.S. blowing this up into a nuclear war. News ratings have crashed since Trump's defeat. Nothing like a war that's good for business. Let's help Ukraine with humanitarian aid, housing refugees, etc. And I just wanted to point this out because, it's Michael Moore's always been resoundingly against the escalation between, United States and getting into any wars. But I thought that this was a really good job of balancing, like, okay, yes, we all understand instinctively that, like, if your home or the country that you live is under threat or bombardment, that it's only natural to want to, stand your ground and defend that against an occupation. But he's still smart enough to understand that it's not going to be good for anybody if we escalate this into a nuclear world conflict. Like he gives the example of the Iraqis standing up to the United States. Would it have done the Iraqis a lot of good if Russia had turned the conflict into a whole nuclear, war between the United States and themselves over Iraq, etc. I thought it was a good analysis. But Mac, what did you think?
I think 2 things kind of jumped out to me in this thread. Honestly, this is the first time that I even saw his take on this. But I think number one, that he's 100% right on his analysis that the media is definitely hyping this up extremely. And even before the invasion took place, it was like, and I don't know if you guys covered the Ryan Grimm compilation that he put out there of all of the different journalists asking the questions and just everybody on repeat, just asking over and over and over again. What are the contexts that you would allow for a no-fly zone? What are the contexts that you would allow for sending fighter jets over there? Or, what would you consider to be an act of war against NATO or against the United States? And just relentlessly pushing us closer and closer to try to, frame this from a far right perspective or as hawkish a perspective as possible to try to nudge us into basically World War III. I mean, it was question after question, just pushing us towards World War III. And he's 100% right that this is, a bunch of different journalists who are using their chance to ask the White House direct questions and are using it to try to, get some pop-off quote that they can use to bolster their career, basically. So there's definitely an element of that. And I think the other thing that stood out to me is the fact that he's talking about this, this outcome that liberals seem to be okay with or seem to be even maybe pushing for. I saw Hillary Clinton pushing for it, of creating Ukraine into essentially like an Afghanistan 2.0 for Russia in an effort to like harm our political adversary. And it's like, you can, it's one thing to be supportive of Ukrainian people who are just trying to defend themselves from an invasion. I think everybody is somewhat on board with that to varying degrees, but it's another thing to be delusional and to think that like Ukraine actually has a legitimate chance at, beating Russia in a direct confrontation. I mean, the whole point of sending weapons into Ukraine or to, do what we've been doing with economic sanctions, etc. Theoretically, even from the framework of like a hawkish person or, liberals that we've been seeing, the whole point of all of that is to give them an upper hand in negotiations, in diplomatic talks, so that you can potentially, work out some sort of an off-ramp and a diplomatic solution. And again, if you go back to what Ryan Grimm was asking Jen Psaki, he directly asked her, what is the United States willing to give up necessarily or work in coordination with Zelensky to offer some sort of an off-ramp for Vladimir Putin to then de-escalate the situation? And she basically didn't have an answer. I mean, she basically was like, well, we're providing them with all of this military equipment and economic sanctions, et cetera. And it's like, you have to have some sort of an off-ramp because, turning Ukraine into an Afghanistan 2.0 might be good from, the perspective of a US imperialist or a NATO war hawk or something, but it's definitely not good for the people of Ukraine. And if your primary concern is innocent civilians in Ukraine right now, then your primary concern should be pushing aggressively as possible for a diplomatic off-ramp. And it's like, almost nobody is doing that right now.
Right. I totally agree with that, Mac. And are you familiar with Michael Moore's like previous, like, are you been a Michael Moore fan yourself throughout your life?
Yeah, definitely.
Gotcha. Yeah, Zach and I were both hugely molded and influenced by Michael Moore's documentary films, like Zach mentioned, Fahrenheit 9/11, Capitalism, a Love Story, Bowling for Columbine, etc. And I know that potentially some people in our audience might not know about Michael Moore's history, some of the great documentaries he's made. But I just wanted to take a quick look at this because, again, I'm so glad that he came out on the right side of this and didn't have some cringy take. Let's just take a quick listen to this because Zach referenced it earlier. This is Michael Moore winning an Oscar in 2003. One of the most based anti-war little, protests, I guess you could say, that I've ever seen on live television. He got booed for this by the supposedly liberal Hollywood audience.
He had to have a security team for years after this.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this is an audience of Hollywood liberals, people that pretend to be, or at least were pretending to be, lefties. And you can see how they reacted to his, what has proven to be a completely correct sentiment about the war. So again, just in case anyone hasn't seen this yet, I think it's worth watching just so you know why we're coming at Michael Moore from such a positive perspective. Let's take a look.
And the Oscar goes to Bowling for Columbine, Michael Moore and Michael Donovan.
This is the first Academy Award and nomination for Michael Moore and Michael Donovan.
Thank you very much. On behalf of our producers, Kathleen Glynn and Michael Donovan from Canada, I'd like to thank the Academy for this. I've invited my fellow documentary nominees on the stage with us, and we would like to, they are here in solidarity with me because we like nonfiction. We like nonfiction, and we live in fictitious times. We live in a time where we have fictitious election results that elects a fictitious president. We live in a time where we have a man sending us to war for fictitious reasons, whether it's the fictition of duct tape or the fictitious of orange alerts. We are against this war, Mr. Bush. Shame on you, Mr. Bush. Shame on you. And anytime you've got the Pope and the Dixie Chicks against you, your time is up. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely fucking based. And what did this award achieve? Nothing. It was hollow LMFAO. Bro, do you not understand how many people watched the fucking Oscars? Do you remember what it was like in 2003? I barely do, but I grew up in Kansas and I know the rabid jingoism, the freedom fries. My dad fucking hated French people because they wouldn't fucking follow us. And I'm not fucking kidding. All the time. My dad, he's a pretty regular guy, but the fucking cultural force of like everybody on sports radio, was like, oh, those pussy fucking French bastards. We shouldn't have bailed their ass out after the revolution. They'd be fucked in World War II if it wasn't for us. Back-to-back world champs, baby. Like that kind of rhetoric was so common that it actually broke into mainstream liberal discourse. And guys like John Kerry, who was the fucking nominee to oppose George Bush, actually got in and supported his fucking war, said we were going to stay in Iraq if he was elected. That's why a shit ton of like true leftists didn't fuck with John Kerry at all. He's also talking about how Al Gore just handed over the fucking election to George Bush not that long ago because his fucking brother ran the state of Florida. No fucking go fucking figure. Oh yeah, Florida's where the fucking all the lost votes went. Yeah, my brother's the governor there. Like obviously that was horse shit. One of the most blatant, operations to undermine our democracy ever occurred on our own domestic soil. It wasn't anything to do with Russia. So Michael Moore had security teams for fucking years after that. His house was burglarized, vandalized. I mean, he really did go through the ringer about that. And then he put out Fahrenheit 9/11. I mean, man, the guy did really put in the work. Like, I understand you're like, oh, he's a Hollywood liberal, he's rich, fine. But he was a rich guy that did way more than any of the other ones did at a time where it was extremely unpopular and it really hurt his career.
100%. And yeah, if you guys haven't checked out some of his films, I highly recommend Roger and Me, also about Flint, Michigan, just showing you the devastation of shipping the jobs overseas, what happened when the car plant basically shipped all the jobs overseas, devastated the entire community, et cetera, et cetera. Great filmmaker. Obviously, a lot of his takes more recently are pretty cringe, but I did enjoy the fact that he came out with a principled anti-war stance when it came to the whole Ukraine and Russia stuff, refusing to give into the propaganda of the media that we somehow need to be more involved, that we somehow need to institute fly zones, continue shipping money and weapons over to Ukraine, which obviously will only make the situation worse. And clearly he understands that, which again is a relief given how impressed I've been in the past with his anti-war statements and protests like the one we just watched. Anyway, I did want to move on to that Hill video if you still want to check it out, Zach. Yeah, okay. Zach's going to send me the link. Also, thank you for the super chat, Dieter McBusiness, $4.99. This is from when we were talking about John Fetterman. Another reason progressives should take over the DNC. They suck at political marketing. Trumplicans insurrected, and we're talking about CRT and wokeism. It's I mean, obviously, we've had mixed results to say the least so far with the progressive takeover, the whole Justice Democrat model. But to me, there's some other candidates like Fetterman that represent maybe a more viable path to an actual progressive takeover. And yeah, it's insane that the Democratic Party is just letting the Republicans define them with CRT and wokeness when there's obviously so many more important issues at hand that they could be defining their agenda with.
That marijuana bazooka.
Exactly. And also thank you, Ariana, for the $2. Bo, the fifth column, has really good coverage of the war. That's interesting. I'll have to check out Bo's coverage. I haven't actually watched one of his videos in like literally over a year, so I'll do that. But thanks for the recommendation. Thanks for the $2. And yeah, let's take a look at, and also thank you for the $2. Jeswar, Dixie Chicks canceled. Yeah, exactly. Dixie Chicks, similarly to Michael Moore, basically got canceled by the Hollywood liberal elite after they took a stance against the Iraq war. Really a bit of a throwback today.
Yeah, actually, really quickly, Mac, where are you from? Like ballpark part of the country?
I'm from Atlanta. I'm actually wearing an Atlanta Hawks basketball shirt right now. So
there you go. Was the shit crazy when you were a kid? Like, do you remember? I don't know if you're older or younger than us. Do you remember this the hysteria around the Dixie Chicks and all that kind of stuff?
No, I mean, I think I was a little bit too young to be picking up on a lot of that, but definitely my parents and stuff, I think are like definitely more anti-war and were really against the Bush administration and everything that he was doing with the Iraq war. So I definitely got that ingrained in me from a young age. So I mean, yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I don't think it's not comparable to what we're seeing right now in Ukraine. Definitely like the fervor and like bloodlust leading up to Iraq was way more significant than what we're seeing right now. But we do see, like, I feel like a little bit of that right now with just how willing it seems like so many Americans, liberals and conservatives, are willing to just risk the prospects of World War III or a nuclear confrontation, or people coming out and saying, Putin, he's bluffing with the nukes. Like we should just go for it. And it's like, okay, everybody, let's
roll in those fucking dice.
Yeah. Let's calm down. Let's not, ban Russian cats from competitions and whatever the fuck else is happening.
Yeah, the 7-year-old or 9-year-old kid in New York City that was Russian, they wouldn't let him play Tchaikovsky. He's like a Russian prodigy. Like, this fucking kid doesn't care. He doesn't have a dog in this fight. Like, the fuck, he's in America anyway. Like,
yeah. And if anything, it's just going to backfire. And that's the main point that I've been talking about on my show is it's like you could demonize Russians all you want, or you can try to implode their entire economy as much as you want. But, if you go and look at the internal domestic politics, as far as we know, within Russia, I mean, recently Vladimir Putin, his approval rating has gone up a little bit, and you're giving him the opportunity.
Yeah, that always happens in wartime leaders.
Yeah, you're giving him the opportunity to basically say, listen, the war is what it is, but all of this economic hardship that you guys are facing, that's because of the West and their sanctions, and we have to double down and isolate ourselves more. And it's like that's doing the exact opposite of trying to get the Russian people to oppose Vladimir Putin. It's not going to work. It never has.
The exact problem we do with the North Koreans, man.
Or Venezuela, or
exactly,
or any number of different countries. We see this play out over and over again.
And of course, Putin can accurately point to our own hypocrisy and be like, these guys have invaded more fucking countries in the last 20 years than I have. And yet they have some moral authority to, sit here and cut us off from the global banking system and impose all of these sanctions, which are only going to hurt normal people. And it's only going to radicalize those normal people against the West, against America and NATO too.
Yeah, it is wild to see that hypocrisy just at like a surface level. Like if we were going to be punished, if Americans were held accountable or punished for the actions of our presidents, then I mean we wouldn't have an economy. You wouldn't see American products on any shelves around the world. You wouldn't have any interaction with the rest of the global community. But at the end of the day, you're seeing the reality of having a global hegemonic control over the economy and having a giant imperial force that's virtually untouchable. Is that when we do it, it is what it is. Maybe we made some honest mistakes, but when Russia does it, they're the purest evil the world has ever seen, and we have to start World War III to stop them.
Exactly correct. We are going to take a look now at this new video from the Hill, where it looks like Kim Iverson really got into it with Ryan Grimm and Robby Soave, whatever the hell you say his name. So we're going to take a look at that and react. Obviously, by the way, Mac, stick around for as long as you want, but if you got to go at any point, no problem whatsoever. We're probably gonna be streaming for another hour or so. So again, stay on if you want. If not,
I can probably stay on for this next segment, and then I'm gonna have to head out.
No problem at all. Really appreciate your commentary today, though. We've really enjoyed speaking to you, man. But yeah, let's take a listen to this. Again, apparently this gets pretty spicy. I haven't seen it myself, but Kim Iverson tweeted about this, and she said we had quite the. So excited to look at this. Always enjoy a good debate on Rising. Without further ado, let's check it out.
Protect democracy. This is what we hear over and over as to why we're involving ourselves between two neighboring countries 6,000 miles away while risking escalating a nuclear war. Ukrainians need our help fighting against a brutal dictator who controls the press and squashes dissent, they say. Now, that might be true about Putin, but oddly, the very man, Zelensky, who is supposed to be protecting fragile Ukrainian democracy, just banned 11 opposing political parties and nationalized all news to ensure the only message people hear is, quote, unified information. Yes, the man who is supposed to be protecting democracy just got rid of it using emergency powers under martial law. One party he banned, the For Life Party, holds 43 seats in Ukraine's national parliament. It's the largest of the opposition parties and even condemned Russia's invasion. But as of right now, they're suspended, all because we're protecting democracy. This illogical rhetoric would be typically mind-bending, but we've heard so much illogical propaganda these past couple of years, many of us are desensitized to it by now. Nothing makes sense anymore, but we could still try. So try to make sense of this. The 11 political parties Zelensky banned are mostly considered left-wing. The Opposition for Life Party, which I just mentioned, Sharij Party, Nashi Opposition Bloc, Left Opposition, Union of Leftists, Derzava, Progressive Socialist Party of Ukraine, Socialist Party of Ukraine, the Socialists, and Volodymyr Saldo's bloc. Many of these parties are anti-war, against joining any foreign military alliance, and call for better relations with their Russian cousins. And by the way, I say cousins because that's what they are. It's important to remember that 11 million Russians have Ukrainian family. Putin's own goddaughter is Ukrainian. These two countries are very intertwined. In the address announcing the ban of the parties, Zelensky stated, "The activities of those politicians aimed at division or collusion will not succeed, but will receive a harsh response. Therefore, the National Security and Defense Council decided, given the full scale of war unleashed by Russia and the political ties that a number of political structures have with this state, to suspend any activity of a number of political parties for the period of martial law." So there you have it. War is the excuse. Now, I get that Ukraine is at war, and I deeply sympathize with the Ukrainian people dodging bombs because their government is corrupt and under the influence of money, that is. And that's same for the Russians. It's both sides are very extremely corrupt, and they're fighting, and these average citizens are trying to dodge everything that's going on there. It's tragic. But when you begin to strip people of their political power, their right to vote, and the right to war information and jailing dissidents, but that's supposed to be expected. After all, we're siding with Ukraine because we're helping them preserve democracy from Russia, even though they're now acting just like Russia. But whatever, we're not supposed to try to understand it. Just like how we're not supposed to try and understand why several very ultra-nationalist neo-Nazi supporting Ukrainian political parties get to remain functioning while leftist parties are being banned. It doesn't matter. We're on the side of the good guys, they say. Now, I want to mention, I am not just picking on Ukraine on this one, guys. This is anti-war voices.
So before we get into the little debate, and I don't even know what the pushback is going to be. I don't know. I definitely don't agree with Kim Iverson on everything. I think sometimes she has downright stupid takes on stuff. But I do have to say, I pretty much agree with her, radar there, her little monologue. I think it's pretty insane that Zelensky, who's been propped up as this personification of good liberal democracy or whatever, is now banning opposition parties, like 11 of them, one of which holds 40 seats in the parliament, and also has basically consolidated the media into a state media. So basically doing what we accuse Putin of doing, or what Putin does. He's basically exemplifying or personifying those very traits himself, even though he's being propped up as like the, more democratic, more humane, etc., version. So I think Kim's on point there. I totally agree that it's authoritarian and not worth celebrating what has happened with Zelensky's latest moves.
Yeah, I think that the pushback that they're going to offer is that, when she says things like we're doing exactly what Russia does and now Ukraine is doing exactly what Russia does, they're going to kind of dispute the minutia on that. But broad stroking it, like you're right, like we don't have the ability to point fingers and support Ukraine while they ban opposition parties and then turn around and be like, oh, the problem with what's happening over here is the banning of opposition parties. And then the point that many people will bring up is, Julian Assange, just had to get married in Belmarsh prison today. Like that's the United States controlling the flow of information and data abroad. I think that really the discussion is going to be the amount of severity and to the extent that this is going on, which is the crux of their debate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be interested to see what their pushback is specifically. I mean, I think it is kind of important what she was saying there. And I do agree, because based on what I've seen so far, even that large, the opposition party, I forget what the name of it was exactly, the one that holds 43 seats in parliament or whatever, that party was openly against the war, as far as I know, and was pushing back. And so if the idea theoretically from Zelensky is like, well, we have to ban these under martial law because it's a wartime footing and these people could be, plotting against us or working with Russia. Well, it's like, on two different fronts. Number one, if you do have a significant ethnic Russian population within Ukraine, well, they're going to need some representation in any functioning democracy, number one. And number two, if this specific party was openly against the war or was actively opposing what Vladimir Putin is doing, then cutting them off from political participation is only going to drive them to be more likely to then side with Vladimir Putin in Russia, because they're going to throw their hands up and say, well, you just took away our political representation within Ukraine. So it doesn't really make sense from any angle, honestly, in my opinion.
100%. Let's take a listen here and see what exactly the pushback is from Ryan and Robby.
Have been silenced and jailed since the beginning of time, I would imagine. Here in the United States, we have jailed anti-war voices since World War I. We jailed, we even have jailed during the Vietnam. I mean, every single war we have gone after people who were anti-war. There was the Boston Five during the Vietnam War, where they, they were trying to kind of talk to young men on how they could avoid military service, and they ended up serving prison time for that. The world, for whatever reason, is extremely against people who are against war. And if you're against war, you're a Putin puppet. We've heard this a lot from the people who are saying this war shouldn't be happening because Ukraine needs to maybe go to the table and actually negotiate with their cousins. And I meant that literally. People need to remember that this is more akin to a civil war than it is one country just wanting to take another country. These people are related. Again, Putin's own goddaughter is a Ukrainian. So this, but the war machine, and Ryan has talked about this numerous times, the war machine, the drums just keep beating on and on and on and on. And everybody just wants to march towards war. I mean, Face the Nation was crazy this past Sunday, where the host was grilling the U.S. ambassador, the China ambassador here in the United States. It was like, why aren't you doing more against Russia? What do you? So we're hearing this constant war drum beating. And if you're against war, you get jailed, you get silenced. You're anti. You're not a patriot. You're even potentially a traitor or treasonous,
including by Russia, right? Russia is jailing anti-war dissidents right now. Yeah.
Right. I mentioned that. So Russia's doing it, but that's expected. We say that's Russia. That's why we're fighting against Russia. That's why we can't let Russia win, because they're anti-democratic. Yet Ukraine literally did the very things that Russia does. And we don't have any right to sit here and say that we're any better, because we do it too here in the United States.
Right, but it's a rather critical. Well, we don't. No. Yeah, we don't.
We are better. We are definitely better. We do not. I mean, today we do not jail people like that.
Like they've criminalized basically any social media post. They're like, no, like the Russian restrictions on anti-war activity are much more draconian.
I mean, those Ukrainian restrictions are also.
I will say we actually do this, right? Like we do actually do this. If you Kim Iverson gave a couple of examples from history, right? It goes back to World War I. Eugene Debs was jailed for his like outspoken anti-war criticism. But if anybody, it doesn't have to be anti-war criticism. They'll apply these laws draconianly across the board. Does anybody remember how many of us were criminalized during the George Floyd protests? Like, oh, America loves dissent. We never jail anybody for opposition. Like, what are you talking?
How many times was MLK arrested?
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah, and why do we have?
There's definitely, I think, a little bit of a there's definitely a little bit of a difference between the widespread crackdowns that we've seen in Russia. I mean, like you said, they did literally pass a law that says anybody even identifying the war as a war or as an invasion instead of as like, you know, however they're calling it, a special military operation or whatever it may be, that you could face jail time. So that is, I think, a little bit more significant than what we're seeing right now in the US domestically. Now, what's happening in Ukraine on the ground, I've seen some pretty horrific shit in terms of how, you know, prisoners of war are being treated, or even people who are suspected of being, you know, Russian apologists or whatever. But, you know, a lot of that is going to be extremely hard to figure out right now in the middle of the fog of war.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's going to be the kind of the continuation of this breakdown, right? And honestly, it's a little cringy to just look at like her make this kind of valid point, and then Ryan and Robby just kind of look at each other and it's like, well, America's better, right? Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, we're better, right? Oh, America's better.
Let's take a look at the rest, though, just to see where this goes.
More draconian.
Right, but
no one is banned. You're not banned here.
Actually,
a critical detail, though, is that Russia invaded Ukraine. Like that.
Sure.
Like, so it's not a civil war. Like Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah.
We accept a lot of restrictions on individual liberties in the military. Like we have just accepted as societies across the globe that in order for a military to be, now there are people on the fringe who, and I'm kind of among them, who would contest that and say you can actually have a more effective military in a more democratic way. But set that aside. People have agreed that in a military setting, you set aside individual liberties for the sake of the whole, and you establish hierarchies and rules so that the military can be the most effective. When a country is invaded, like everyone it becomes militarized. You know, and you know, we talked earlier. You know, I think you were saying earlier that like there's not a whole lot of difference if you know, kind of a Russian oligarchy or a Ukrainian oligarchy is running Ukraine. A key difference is that Russia is currently leveling Ukraine, like creating a refugee crisis of biblical proportions. So people aren't going to be ruled by oligarchs of any stripe because they're not being ruled at all, because they're being driven out of their country. They're being killed, and and block by block, everything they've built over 30 years is being systemically destroyed.
Right, they're not doing that
because
for fun.
Russia
We have to remember.
Ukraine.
I get that, but they're not doing it for fun. They're not going there. They're just blowing stuff up because they think it's fun and cool. They're doing it because they're trying to get Zelensky to the negotiation table to reject the West.
What's the evidence of that? He has said, like Zelensky has said that he's willing to negotiate.
No, and he has. And then he goes to the table and then he says, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to negotiate this.
So I will say that's a little bit of a, I don't know what the right word is, disingenuous point from Kim, because like, yes, it's true that they're trying to get Zelensky to the negotiating table, and it'd probably be the best if he gets himself there. But that's still not any sort of excuse or justification to be like killing people or shelling, you know, civilian areas. Like, you know, even if that's true, it's not the people's fault. And I thought, you know, everyone should understand that regardless of what the intentions of the leaders are, the, you know, various countries' leaders, it should never fall on the people to be sacrificed for those ends. It should never, you know, fall on the civilians to, you know, have to flee their homes and evacuate and potentially die because Zelensky's not coming to the negotiating table quick enough. It's not their fault.
Yeah, and I think that needs to be said. And I also think that it's important to like not fall into this like weird trap where like you're simping for the death of civilians on either side. Like, oh, Russia had to fucking bomb the shit out of Kyiv and destroy that hospital. Oh, that was a legitimate military strategy. It's like, hold the phone, guys. I thought we were leftists and I thought we didn't want war and destruction here. So it's like, you know, I understand, you know, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, right? If you're talking about reducing an entire like region to rubble, like the United States has some fucking fessing up to do, some some work to get done in the Middle East, right? To fucking build everything that we destroyed. And you know, that's one of the pillars of my argument, that we have no fucking reason to be giving moralizing or money or aid anywhere else in the places that we've already fucking destroyed, like when we were responsible for that. So it does feel kind of weird for people to get all like fucking, oh, well, the United States isn't fucking reducing this fucking innocent country to rubble. It's like, oh yeah, you're right. We did that for 20 years and we just got tired of it like 30 minutes ago. So now we're fucking moralizing about how it's so terrible to do in the rest of the world. Like, I understand that, but I just feel like so quickly the argument that, you know, we all three were just super sympathetic to, which was like, yeah, Russia's doing fucked up shit, but Ukraine is also doing fucked up shit, right? It's like, no, now it has to turn into like, I want Russia to bomb the shit out of Ukraine, so then it goes to peace talks. It's like, no, those things are a little like fucking contradictory. Like, I want Putin to stop invading Ukraine. I want no US weapons used. And I want Zelensky to go negotiate. That's what I want as a leftist. That might not fucking happen. But I'm not cheerleading for like the fucking murder of Ukrainians just so it accelerates the situation to a point where it's so unbearable for the Ukrainian people that Zelensky has to negotiate. Because that's essentially the argument that, you know, Kim Iverson is making. She's like, Russia wants this. They're going to get it. They're going to fucking keep doing whatever they want. Zelensky should go hand in hand and fucking take what he gets. Like, I understand how that's not necessarily going to fly either. So, but yeah, what do you think, Matt?
No, I mean, I think both of you guys had some good points there. It is just kind of weird how it's like, I don't really understand why people can't just have nuanced opinions about these things. Like, if you're able to recognize how fucked up the American invasion of Iraq is and the widespread war crimes and human rights abuses that we were conducting there, the bombing of civilian infrastructure, etc., it's like you should be able to equally do that when it's Vladimir Putin, a hyper-capitalist oligarch who's doing the same goddamn shit to a somewhat lesser degree in Ukraine. But again, like when I made my own video, when I was talking about Zelensky banning these opposition parties and taking the steps that he did, it's like it shouldn't be that hard to talk about this from the three different angles and the three different players, because like I saw in your chat people pointing out how many thousands and thousands of Americans were arrested and brutalized, and you see the compilations of like the NYPD literally using their cars as weapons and running down protesters, and it's like I've seen the arrests that are being made in Russia, and honestly they don't even seem like they're that much more violent or aggressive than what I've seen directly with my own eyes here in my home city of Atlanta during protests like that. And it's like none of this is to excuse what Vladimir Putin is doing, and that's kind of the nuance that I wish people were able to have. Is it's like you can talk about this from all of these different angles, and also it doesn't mean that you're either a State Department propagandist or that you're a Putin apologist or a Putin propagandist. You should just be able to have these positions that are consistent no matter who's conducting the crimes or no matter who's engaging in an invasion. It's just you should be able to have that across the board, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I hate how people have to be like you said, just no nuance. Like we have motherfuckers like Jackson Hinkle out here just straight up towing the Russian like propaganda line. Like Russia is 100% correct in what they're doing, and they have every right and justification to be doing it. It's like obviously that's not true. And then we have other motherfuckers like Vosh out here that are just 100% like pro Zelensky, team Ukraine, and refuse to reckon with any of the issues there.
Or people openly calling for the deaths of Russian soldiers, or like, how many casualties can we run up on the board just to
castrate the Russians.
Yeah, it's like, I wouldn't root for that, just like I wouldn't root for some, random dude from West Virginia who got shipped off to Afghanistan and didn't know what the fuck he was doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like Vosh said that he said the correct position on this should be that we should arm the Ukrainians as much as possible so that they can kill as many Russians as possible on their way over the border. I'm like, do you really think that most of those Russian soldiers, you think they deserve to die because they happen to be, born into the unfortunate situation of being Putin's pawn, his, the human shields he can throw at the incoming fire? Like,
and we've seen that. It's not like we haven't seen evidence of that, of like Russian soldiers who are just completely demoralized or didn't really know the full extent of what they were getting into and all of this different shit. It's like, you're not benefiting anybody by trying to prolong the conflict and trying to just run up the body count on whichever side it may be. Everybody should just be pushing for diplomacy. That's the only way out that's going to be effective.
Right. And stop sympathizing with or idolizing nation states and their leaders. Like, again, whether it's Putin in Russia or Zelensky in Ukraine, like, this isn't a goddamn Marvel movie. Like it's not a fucking, or like, this isn't like a fucking Tolkien novel. Like, it's not just like good and evil. Like, it's more complicated than this. This is an extremely complicated, the fucking geopolitical crisis that's going on. Both sides have, bad intentions at some point. Both of them, like, it's just so annoying how unnuanced certain people are being on this. But thanks, Jake the Butcher, for the $4.99 2 years later, and hundreds of us are still being prosecuted in liberal Minneapolis because we walked on the freeway during the uprising. Yeah, there's a great example, Jake, of how the U.S. is not exactly kind to protesters either. And let's not forget also that we're currently starving, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in Afghanistan with our sanctions. Let's not pretend that we're not funding Saudi Arabia's genocide in Yemen. Let's not pretend that we're not funding Israel's occupation and apartheid state in Palestine. Like, obviously,
all the secret shit we're doing in Africa, killing people.
Exactly. And thank you, Sean, for the favorite superhero, guys. We always get questions about superheroes. I guess Batman, although he's not really a superhero, he doesn't have superpowers. And yes, I know he's a cop and a billionaire and all that shit, but still, probably my favorite superhero.
Gavin simping for fucking billionaire cops. I can't fucking believe this, man.
I was about to say, like, that's probably my least.
Kick-Ass is my favorite superhero. He's a working class fucking hero. I don't know about you, Mac. Mac, I know you also have to get the fuck out of here, so feel free to dip whenever. But what's your favorite superhero on the way out?
I mean, it's kind of hard for me to, I guess, pick one. I guess if I'm just going back to my childhood, and the one that I used to be the most into, it was definitely the Hulk. But I don't really know why. That was just kind of my preference.
I mean, that's a good one. Not a lot of people pick the Hulk. That's a good one.
Yeah.
You hear about the new She-Hulk show they're making?
I did not hear about that.
Yeah, I guess they're making a She-Hulk show for Netflix.
For real?
Or
sounds
Disney
wild.
or something. I know, right? But yeah, I'm down to watch the rest of this. But yeah, if you got to go, Mac, that's cool.
Yeah, I'll pop off. But I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Of course. Yeah, you're welcome whenever, man. Really enjoyed chatting, getting your perspective today. Like I said, everyone go subscribe to Good Politic Guy on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter. Really enjoy your commentary and really enjoyed chatting today on the show. So thanks for dropping by, man.
Yep. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, take care, man. And yeah, we can fucking watch the rest of this because it does get even more off the rails. Oh, yeah. Also, I think I missed one of the super chats. Dave McGee, I didn't mean to snap at you. I know you weren't like critiquing our show just because you were critiquing the Hollywood performance of Michael Moore. Like, man, I simp for Michael Moore, especially because of that one clip that like changed my life. No, yeah, no. Obviously, you feel free to say whatever the fuck you want in the chat, even if we disagree with you.
Oh yeah, 100%. He says, but sure, wokeism? No, maybe. I don't know what exactly. Oh, the She-Hulk thing. We're on different topics now. But yeah, thanks, David, for the comments. And yeah, I totally agree that, obviously it was based that Michael Moore did that protest, but it's not like it fucking changed the world or whatever. What can one man do? But yeah, anyway, thanks for your perspective. Let's take a listen to the rest of this. And by the way, Shane, we've talked about the MPP implosion probably more than anything else on this goddamn channel. So there's plenty of content for you out there. I'm sure we'll talk about it again in the future, but it's not one of our topics on today's stream. And yeah, thanks, Mac, for stopping by today. Really, really enjoyed chatting. What a reasonable, just good faith dude. So many people in this space, they're just fucking grifters. They're just trying to find an angle, trying to find a lane, trying to, get connections and, trying to get fucking access to Jimmy Dore, access to Vosh, or access to Cenk Uygur, whatever. Mac is clearly in this for other reasons. He's really speaking his mind, speaking the truth, always has some reasonable, good takes. So yeah, thanks for stopping by, man. Always welcome, Guard, whenever. But yeah, let's take a listen to the rest of this clip before we get into some GTA.
Oh shit! Correction, my favorite superheroes are Blunt Man and Chronix. Shout out to JSAR for catching that.
Yeah, how could we forget? Now I need to remember this the next time we get that question. Obviously, it's Blunt Man and Chronic.
Gavin and I literally are our own Blunt Man and Chronic.
Yeah, although I have noticed, I'm kind of bummed out since I cut my hair. We've been getting less Jay and Silent Bob comments. You know what I'm saying?
I need to get fatter, and you need to grow your hair. I had to starve myself for about 8 weeks. Too many people said I was looking like Vosh. I'm kidding, but
well, Vosh has also lost weight, so you once again look like Vosh. No, I'm just kidding. He has a different hairstyle. Yeah, that's why Zach got his hairstyle changed.
No more tendies from mom.
Oh god, but yeah, Blunt Man and Chronic for the win, 100%. And yeah, I'm excited to get into some GTA in a second here. But let's take a listen to this, the rest of this, because it does continue to get spicy.
Thing. So They're not.
But so Russia's a good faith actor here, but Zelensky is not willing to
No.
negotiate.
Whoa. We will not sit here and try to paint me as some kind of Putin puppet. Like that's what I'm saying. I've not said that.
Then restate it. What are you saying that Russia is up to?
What I'm saying is that Russia and Ukraine are neighbors, and they're related. They're literally related. They have family going back and forth between country to country. So they need to be nice and work on good relations with their neighbor. But the West came in 2014.
Quickly, the one thing that I do get a hang up on that I'm not sure I like, maybe Kevin, maybe this is just me, but like she keeps saying they're like literally cousins. Like, am I being a hippie if I'm like, well, technically we're all literally cousins? Like, how many people in Italy have family in America? Like, if we went to war with the Italians, like, how many Americans have family in fucking China or Australia or Taiwan or Korea or something like that? So she's like 11 million people have fucking family in this other country, so therefore we're related. I'm like, well, shit, man. I don't know. There might be 11 million motherfuckers in America that have family in India. You know what I mean? I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to say that makes us more or less likely to go to war with it. I just thought that was a weird talking point, but maybe I'm just like, I don't know. That was just one weird thing I noticed.
Yeah, definitely a little interesting. But yeah, this is getting spicy. Mac left at the wrong time. This is popping off now.
What did the West do? You know the history of the West came in and got rid of the pro-Russian, which is what they've done now. These 11 political parties.
Shouldn't you make that pitch to Russia? I guess is that you're right. They're neighbors. They should get along. So isn't the person who needs to hear that message right now Vladimir Putin?
What is it? So what do you want? So right, they have for years, and I've talked about this ad nauseum. For 30 years, they've said you cannot bring NATO up to our border. Ukraine basically giving them the big middle finger, saying we'll do whatever we want. And then Russia says, well, then you're going to have to pay for that because, by the way, you've been under our control since the dawn of time. Now, is that right? No. Ukrainians should have independence. They deserve independence. And I believe Russia will probably ultimately, maybe not, it might take more years, but Ukraine, the differences between the people are enough that they absolutely should be independent. And the people want that independence. So they should have that. It's what they want. But the reality of it is the West shouldn't be involved in this. We shouldn't be egging Ukraine on into fighting this, giving them more weapons for Russia to continue to blow up. Russia said, they specifically stated, we are demilitarizing. So what do? We give them more weapons to continue militarizing them so they have more to blow up. So rather than forcing Ukraine into a peaceful position with their very hostile neighbor, right, at this point, who doesn't want to actually be that hostile with them, we are instead rearming
want
them.
to be that hostile. They invaded them.
No, they're related.
They're related. Them.
I get that, but there's a reason why they did it, and we can't ignore that and just act like.
But there's a reason why we did it, because they were to only start with. There's only it acts like they're this it's totally. There's no choice.
But to,
they had there are reasons we did the things that caused the reasons that they do. There's always reasons.
We pushed them towards it. I mean, we absolutely pushed them towards it by continuing to inch NATO up to their borders. We can't just forget that and act like that didn't happen.
Right,
so
and we both said that we shouldn't have done that.
Right.
But they really shouldn't have started killing a bunch.
So whatever they, what if they nuke Kyiv? So they're anything is justified. What's the line for you? So
come on. I mean, are they going to do? For one,
do you think the invasion was justified?
No, I think that we were helping Ukraine ask for it, but I don't know what else Russia would have done. I don't know what else I could have expected them to do. I think if you poke a bear enough,
you didn't expect the bear's going to fight
back.
So you didn't expect them to invade,
I didn't expect them to invade,
and you don't think it was justified. So what are we?
It's not that we're disagreeing on the fact that, maybe I don't know what else Russia could have done. Besides, when you poke a bear, what do you expect to happen?
But Russia's not a bear. A bear, Russia's a government, and government should be responsible and not murder people. Just saying, well, that's what the government does. They beat up
that's what war is.
That black kid should have been loitering on the street. They got shot. That's what the government does. No, I don't accept that as a person who is a critic of what governments do. It is illegitimate for governments to murder people. They cannot. It is illegitimate for a government to assert that I actually rule this group of people and I will expand the reach of my rule. No, that I reject that. Governments are comprised of people who should be expected to behave in moral, humanitarian ways, and it is wrong. It is the most obviously wrong thing to murder people. I don't care if they want. NATO moved too far. Right, we shouldn't have done it. We agree that that was a bad tactical move because it changed Russia's thinking about this or what they have to do.
So yeah, this is definitely an interesting conversation. We'll watch the rest in a bit here, but I definitely understand where everyone's coming from this at, and I see this a lot from people like Kim Iverson, where they explain the context for the situation accurately, but then they almost kind of imply that then justifies what Russia is doing in Ukraine, which I do take issue with also, because I agree with everything she said, and it seems like Robby and Ryan do too, that yeah, NATO should not have breached that contract essentially by encroaching on Russia. That was poking a bear, so to speak. So we are to blame to the West for this reaction because we knew it was coming. But at the same time, that doesn't absolve or justify a war. A war primarily a war primarily affects the civilians negatively. That's the issue with war, is that even if there's a legitimate grievance coming from the head of state or coming from the nation state, it still doesn't justify an attack on civilians. The civilians had nothing to do with it. They had no relation to these issues. It's not their fault what's going on with NATO. It's not their fault what's going on with Western aggression. No civilian is to blame here. And that's the problem with war 10 out of 10 times. It's the same thing when we went into Iraq and Afghanistan. It's not like your average Iraqi or average Afghanistani person was involved with Al-Qaeda, but that was our justification for going in there. It's not like the millions of people that died in that war had anything to do with 9/11, but that's why we went in there. So again, there's always going to be a justification for invasion. There's always going to be justification for war. Literally every time. You think that wars just started for no reason? Like, obviously, if you ask the U.S. why we were invading Iraq, you would have heard a lot of examples that would have sounded pretty legitimate. Again, the same thing that Russia's doing now with Ukraine. They have justifications, but again, that's not really an excuse for what's happening, given the fact that it's mostly civilian people and normal working average civilians that are paying the price.
Yeah, I mean, it really what it boils down to is this: on a geopolitical massive scale, it's like, hey, over there, that place looks pretty nice. All right, we need that place over there. So we're going to just fucking shoot it up to all fucking hell. And then if your argument is, well, those people should really just get the fuck out and give away their home, like, that's not really a fucking salient argument, which is kind of how it does appear. If you like from a very shallow standpoint, just kind of make it seem like Russia's justified in what they're doing, or like, oh, the pretense of what Russia's doing isn't a crime. Like, if you just forget that and set it aside, you're 100% right, Gavin. It's pretty off-putting. But at the same time, it's like, walking that balancing act of like, okay, yes, you have to give all the context and be like, yeah, well, the United States does fucked up shit that's in our interest too. We go to other countries and steal shit and all this other stuff. But that doesn't, well, I say it's wrong when we do it, just like I say it's wrong when other countries do it. You have to have that like uniformity in your understanding of every situation. Something is not better just because Russia's doing it and they can blame it on, evil shit that the US did. You know what I mean?
Right. And ultimately, like I said, it's civilians that are paying the price for this, which is really the tragedy of all wars and why we should all be, uniformly against them. So again, it's not that Russia wasn't provoked, but it shouldn't be the civilians and normal people that are paying the price for NATO aggression. They didn't have anything to do with that. They're just trying to live their lives like you or me or Zach. So yeah, anyway, let's take a little bit more of this in before we move on.
Perhaps, but the aspiration of people not to live under the repressive government of Vladimir Putin is a noble and legitimate aspiration.
You were the one that was just saying that there's got to be a line somewhere and that at some point we would then attack and go to war with Russia. That's not me. You're the one who said that. So where's
right,
Russia's
if they invaded
line?
us,
And that's the thing.
defensive violence is proper. Like if Ryan starts beating me up and I start fighting back, would you say, hey, Robby, I thought you were against violence. What are you doing? No.
Well, that's kind of what you guys are
Russia
saying
is Ryan
Russia.
in this scenario.
Right. So what do
and
you
then
expect?
You say, well, but Ryan said he didn't want you sitting over here. He said he really didn't like it. He said he really didn't like it. Like, come on.
What do you think
I would expect is Russia not to invade Ukraine. Like, just
what do you think they should have done with NATO? What do you expect them to do if NATO keeps going up to their border?
Negotiate something.
If there are nukes on their front porch, what do you expect them to do about it? What is reasonable?
Negotiate something. So in your mind, then, the United States could have just invaded Cuba during the missile crisis. Like, we didn't invade Cuba. Well, we shouldn't have.
What did we do? We did the pigs. Exactly. So come on, let's not forget about that.
But that wasn't because Russia was involved there. So.
Oh, we shouldn't have done that. Yeah.
No, yeah, and we also should not have done that.
We shouldn't have done any of our invasions.
We should not have started a war over any
shouldn't allow-
any Russian provocation. Like,
We shouldn't allow nukes being pointed at us at our border. And I don't think any other country should allow nukes to be pointed at them at their border. I think it's reasonable for them to say, stop doing that. Russia asked us for 30 years. This was not like an overnight thing. They asked us for 30 years to stop. So yeah, I do put a lot of blame squarely on NATO expansion on this whole entire thing. And then to sit there and say, well, Russia should have just continued to do nothing.
They're telling us we got to go. Look, this is an actual debate you won't see on any any media channel that is either relentlessly one way or the other. We're actually arguing out this kind of thing, which is what people want to see. So thank you very much, Kim, and we'll have more Rising right after this.
Yeah, it did feel a little bit like I'm no simp for Kim Iverson, but it did feel like they were a little bit like dogpiling her at the end. So I felt like a little bit bad for her, but I also felt like a lot of the points that were being made were kind of getting lost at that point, and it was a little bit like just bickering. So I understand why they cut it when they did. But overall, I thought it was a really interesting kind of a conversation, and one that, you know, deserves some analyzing and warrants some analyzing, because I thought that it was a mixed bag from the hosts there. There were definitely some points and pushback that Ryan and Robby introduced that I was sympathetic to. You know, at times I do feel like Kim is a little bit too sympathetic to the Russian end of this than they are the at least officially the aggressors. You know, they were bombing the shit out of Ukraine. That's, you know, nobody forced them to do that. You know, she would argue NATO forced them to do that. I don't ever see war of aggression as like a clear, like, oh, you have to fucking do this, which would create a little bit of a discrepancy in my perspective versus hers. But I also think that she does do a little bit better job at framing this than maybe Ryan and Robby would have alone, because they're going to be so quick to, you know, basically sympathize with the Ukrainian cause and not as much with the Russian. So just interesting perspective that Robby's 100% correct. You would not get from mainstream media, which we should.
Yeah, 100%. And also the other thing that I think Kim fails to mention is that even if you are looking at this from the Russian perspective, their invasion still makes no sense, because they're basically just making the case for NATO by doing this. They're emboldening NATO by doing this. They're making the case for NATO. Again, I'm not pro-NATO, but a lot more people are now because of Russia's action. A lot more people are saying, well, we need this quote unquote defensive alliance because of Russia's actions. They're only emboldening the West in their stance by doing this, and they've only further severed themselves from any sort of, you know, economic ties with the rest of the developed world, which isn't even in their best interest. So it's basically just insane from all perspectives. And even if there is some sort of flimsy justification for it, I don't think it's going to have any effect as far as dissolving those sort of implications. So, you know, we'll see, but interesting debate for sure. And thank you, Corey, for the $5. Housing first is the humane and necessary policy U.S. needs to reduce homelessness. Support services should be offered and accessible, but not imposed. Totally 100% agree. Housing should be a human right. I'm guessing you were commenting on our earlier discussion involving Anna Kasparian's NIMBS tweet. But yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I mean, yeah, do I think that you should be forced to live somewhere that you don't fucking want to? No, obviously I don't. And we shouldn't criminalize homelessness and all that kind of stuff that, you know, Anna Kasparian wants to portray as what's happening is like, oh, these people just don't want all of the robust, very nice public housing options that are here all over LA. It's super easy. You just put your name on a list and you live in a nice apartment. Why don't people want to do that? Like, that is just so fucking far from the reality. It's months of waiting, you know, depending on the situation. Like, one thing we don't talk about in this country enough is how fucking poor the living standards are allowed to be at a building that you then rent to somebody to be their home. I'm talking about public housing having issues with mildew, all kinds of mold, stuff that's bad for you to inhale it, bugs, critters, all kinds of fucked up shit, guys. I mean, absolutely insane. And yet these people, because there's so much desperation, they have to live there. That's either that or be homeless. And then people are actually like fucking leeches sucking blood out of these people from their resources while not providing them with a safe and stable home. That's what oftentimes public housing is. Okay, Anna Kasparian, that's why people don't want to fucking live there. We need to better finance it. Anyway, thank you so much for your perspective and the $5 donation, Corey. You're on the money.
Yeah, thanks so much, Corey. Really appreciate that. Did you want to get into a little bit of gaming, Zach?
Yeah, there was only one other thing that I wanted to shout out, and this will make a good segue for something that we can kind of start our conversation on with the GTA 5. But we did get a couple of people that mentioned this in chat. You know, we do talk about when censorship goes too far pretty often on our channel. And I just thought it was fucking completely ridiculous that Kyle got banned from Twitter for sharing the fucking GIF of what happened in Scanners. Did you hear about that? And did you have any thoughts about it? Because I just feel like we're about to be coming up against another big wave of censorship. I feel like the rumblings are happening. I think that, you know, if the United States were to escalate and getting in which God, I hope doesn't happen, knock on wood. If we were to escalate our role in what's happening with Ukraine and Russia, I think we would see the fucking clap come down, and the iron fist would be ruled over what's going on Twitter. So yeah, this is a tweet from Crystal Ball from yesterday morning. So this is completely ridiculous. At Kyle Kulinski's Twitter account is locked right now because he tweeted a GIF of a fake exploding head. They said it violated the rules on gratuitous gore. These people need to get a grip. Yeah, I've watched a bunch of bombed buildings and fucking people that look like they're starving to death and victims of war on Twitter. But apparently we can't see the clip from fucking David Cronenberg's Scanners, Gavin.
Yeah, this is insanity. Yet another example of big tech censorship and overreach. Basically, Kyle Kulinski shared what is a very common reaction GIF of a head exploding from the movie Scanners. Great movie, by the way. Check it out. Directed by David Cronenberg, one of my favorite filmmakers. But yeah, got him banned off Twitter for a day or two, or at least locked. You know, his account is locked. So just so fucking stupid, right? And like, I remember when the internet was so much more unfiltered, so much less gentrified than it is now, so much less censorious. And this is just, you know, yet another example of that being the case. If you can't even share what is just a very, you know, obvious clip from a movie or a GIF from a movie, a horror movie, then like, what the fuck is this? Like what the fuck even are we doing here? It's insanity that it's gone this far that you can't even post something with gratuitous gore. Like, what the fuck, dude? It's so dumb.
No, the internet's been completely scrubbed and sanitized for all kinds of reasons. Made it a lot more corporate friendly. Made it a lot more like, oh, you can put that back up. I don't care. Oh no, you're good. But yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. I don't know. I feel like the internet used to be so like, oh no, where did I go? Disappeared. Here we go. This is how we like it. Now I can start. Okay, yeah, no worries. But yeah, just completely ridiculous how scrubbed down in adolescent they're trying to make it. It's because they're trying to make it more corporate friendly, right? Like, I think at the end of the day, this is what it really is. It's all about being more corporate friendly. It's about not having to deal with advertisers wanting to take their revenue away. And what is that going to do? It's actually going to drive everybody who grew up on the internet. Because I think Gavin and I, we actually have a really unique perspective on this, right? Not to toot my own horn. A lot of times I pull shit out of my ass. I actually grew up on the internet, right? I did not have that many friends when I was a kid. I spent a lot of time at home. The internet was where you learned about shit. It was where you socialized. It was where you educated yourself, facilitated my entire knowledge of politics to the extent that it exists. I mean, I was on forums. Like, forums used to be way bigger than they are now. Now everything's just Reddit or not Reddit. But back in the day, I remember, you know, like Silverfish and all kinds of like weird fucking like forums. Back in the day, it was all gritty. Like, yes, people were being offensive and, you know, all kinds of like crude and whatever, but at least it was liberated and it was free. It was a marketplace of ideas. Now it just feels like kindergarten, like we're going to, you know, be someplace super sanitized where we're all being watched. You know, I don't know, especially with YouTube cracking down the way it is. Not to bitch about this because I know there's real problems in the world, but like every fucking Vanguard stream getting demonetized. Like, guys, this is how people make a fucking living. You know what I mean? And yet Google, they don't give us any fucking recommendations. Like, I swear to God, one time, immediately after our stream was over, we didn't even fucking play the Jon Stewart clip from Apple Music. We didn't even play it because we were like, oh fuck, this is gonna get us fucking copyrighted or whatever. We did not play it. We literally moused over it on Twitter, played no audio at all, and they still immediately copyright flagged it. We didn't end up getting a strike on our channel, but we still were completely demonetized. No advertisement money for however many days off of that stream, which really fucks you because we get, you know, we're day-to-day content. We get all of our views within the first like 24 hours or whatever. I don't know. I'm just bitching at this point. I'm on a hill. We're gaming now. Don't normally do gaming streams, but we're gonna just take turns getting to what, 5 stars, Gavin, and then when we die, we'll fucking change the sticks.
Yeah, exactly. Although you're gonna have to go to the weapons store because you got fucking arrested before we went live. Zach got it. If you guys aren't familiar with GTA, if you get arrested, basically you lose all your ammunition and guns and shit. So Zach's gonna have to go all the way to the ammo store to restock on things because before we went live, he allowed himself to get arrested, losing all of our ammunition. So I think that's probably what he's doing now. But yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying the gaming. We're going to be doing more of this after we're done with our main segments on the show. And also something that's going to be fun for these gaming segments is we're just going to be basically chatting with whoever wants to. So I've already hit up a couple people on Twitter that want to chat with us. They may be dropping in the stream later to talk some shit or, you know, share their opinions on some stuff we've talked about today, just so we have someone to talk to while we're, you know, doing some gameplay. But yeah, if there's anyone that you guys would like to hear us chat with today or later on, let me know. If you want to message us on Twitter, basically we're just taking call-ins. So yeah, let us know about something. We can send you the link if you really want to talk about something in specific. But yeah, it's going to be a good ass time.
A lot of fun. I had to get to the ammunition store really quickly. Is our audio fine, everybody in the chat?
I think it's fine.
Okay, cool. I'm just making sure because I can't see my shit really quick. Yeah, I got fucking killed. Anyway, it's just going to be me with the chat really quick. Gavin's going to go to the bathroom, take a fucking piss. I don't know, get stoned or something. I'm kidding. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. But yeah, so I'll be here. This is a kind of a weird change of pace. I wouldn't be surprised if everybody just fucking zones out and you know, we lose our audience right now. But glad that the audio is good. And now we'll just kind of do some fucking Q&A type shit. If anybody has any questions, I'm just going to practice my fucking monologuing because it's dog shit. And that's the one weakest element I have as a streamer is just fucking hanging out by ourselves with the audience. But yeah, just to get back onto my fucking soapbox about what's happening with Twitter, because I've got a lot of fucking shit to say about that. The game's a little laggy. Okay, we put both. Everything is fucking connected with the Ethernet, but our internet is just fucking terrible. We've called and bitched and moaned and all kinds of shit, but for whatever reason, it just relentlessly causes us issues. But alas, I got fucking killed. I don't have any weapons at all. I can't believe I got fucking caught. I wasn't paying attention. I had my screen minimized, but I wasn't paused, and now I have to go all the way to the freaking arms dealer. And I also don't have my mini map, so this is fucking interesting. But oh well. Not getting a lot. Looks like 10 frames per second. Fuck, really? I can see it just fine from mine, but let me pull up a YouTube tab just to see what's fucking going on. Maybe you guys are just bitching for nothing. I'm sorry, this isn't a Vosh level live stream of the video game. Oh yeah, it does look a little shittier. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what the fuck to do about that. You guys are gonna have to live with it. We'll work on that later. Probably just gonna have to buy another Ethernet cord or something.
I think the issue is we don't have enough Ethernet cord, so it might kind of go in and out as far as the internet goes. Sorry about that. Should be resolved by like tomorrow.
Yeah. There we go. Now I can see
it. It looks fine. I'm looking at it on my phone right now. It looks pretty good. So I think it's just that the internet probably dropped out a second ago and it's back now. Should be fine though for the most part.
Yeah, I think it'll be all right. I finally got it to where I can see my mini map while we're fucking streaming. You're gonna have to figure out how to get that set up because that fucking pissed me off. It'll probably be all right. But yeah, finally about to go get some munitions. Also, we need to get fucking recommendations on which games to play, because this is like the only game Gavin and I ever play because we love to slaughter the fucking piggies until we get to 5 stars and then do it all again. That's literally all I do in this game. Sorry guys, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe we'll do more story-based stuff. Gavin and I want to buy a copy of Skyrim for PS4 just because it's going to be really easy for us to practice going around, going through, doing shit like this. But finally, Jesus Christ, I'm getting into the fucking weapons munitions store so that we can start this fucking rampage. I'm gonna get on my Ted Krasinski shit. I don't know. That's one thing I also was worried about is like, how good is YouTube at detecting jokes that you make when you're fucking streaming and you're playing fucking games like this? I'm like, you have to be able to at least participate in some kind of humor because, you know, the mainstream enjoys this kind of shit. You know, I know Hassan Piker isn't like fucking censoring himself, I imagine, the whole time he plays video games, but I don't fucking know. Because like I said, I always just moan about how I want to fucking murk the piggies. But it is what it is. We're about to wreak some destruction right here in the middle of daylight. And then See what's going on. I got this gold gun thing here. Let's fucking just cause some fucking chaos. This is where everybody in the chat can be like, you're not a real leftist. You support killing people in video games. That's fucking violence. That's how our children, that's what's really wrong with this country. The fucking violence in movies and sex on TV. That's the criminal element. All right. Well,
Also, thanks to Matt God for the $5. Found a great channel called Solutionaries. They're on that time banking beat. Check it out at stream. We'll definitely check that out, Matt Ocelot. Been looking for some more resources on the time banking thing. So
yeah, remind me what that is, Gavin. Okay, or Matt Ocelot, remind me what the fuck that is. Somebody in our chat. Holy shit, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
I think it's where you like you can say like if you need me to help you with something, but you don't want to pay me, I'll do it for you, and then you do something for me. You know what I'm saying? Like if you need help building your shed,
oh
or, like,
yeah,
painting your house or some shit, you can like enlist a fellow community member, and it's like a good way to get around the capitalist system, something like that. But clearly, I need to check out this channel so I am more educated. But thanks so much for the recommendation, Matt. Also, like I'll definitely do so, and we'll do a whole segment about it just for you. I promise. But thanks so much for the $5, and also we might have Liam Doris joining us to chat here in a sec. So that should be cool too. He's a candidate in Indiana, super base progressive. But yeah, just someone to talk to while we're streaming. May or may not be dropping through. But yeah, thanks for the super chat, Matt. Also,
yeah, and you know, I'm gonna try and be a little more serious here and cause some serious destruction and not just keep dying. And then I'll pass the sticks over to Gavin, and you guys can see what it looks like when he decides to play video games for the most part. But yeah, this is yeah, Liam is a cool guy. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat to everybody. But yeah, it looks like we may have thinned out a little bit in the chat. You guys aren't rolling through with your commentary as much. That's okay. I understand it takes a second to get used to fucking watching people play video games and streaming, but it does seem like
only the real ones are here.
Only the real ones are here. That's right. And I think Gavin and I will probably just start doing more shit like this, because at least might as well, right? Just spend some time here with you fine fuckers. You know, doing what we're doing. Oh God. Here we go. Also, is anybody else? Oh, Gavin, one of the things we also started, I wanted to talk to you about was, did you see the trailer that everybody's been talking about for the new Harry Potter game? Because I've been stoked for this game forever, but I've seen a lot of like people talk about how cringy the plot line is, and I won't go so far as to say that I can't see why, but I feel bad that I'm still super fucking excited for this video game. But what do you think?
Yeah, I've heard it actually looks pretty cool. I know that there's like some problematic element that people are talking about the goblins or something like that. There's always something with Harry Potter, right?
Yeah, it's the goblin thing, and it's like, oh man, if it hadn't been for the fact that I literally just, you know, watched that whole breakdown. And here, Gavin, I'll pass the sticks to you so you can fucking play a little bit. Everything's plugged in, yeah. I mean, you have to keep this. Oh yeah, because otherwise it won't connect to the computer. But anyway, yeah, so Gavin's gonna try playing now, and oh, this is perfect. I could still watch. We make it full screen. Oh yeah, guys, now I'm getting the same exact experience as y'all watching this game live. Yeah. I have ammo for one gun, but then I got bored and I just ran out and guns ablaze and started shooting. So we have some weapons. We also have grenades. You know, just stuff to you know, entertain yourself. I've got like a hatchet, I think, maybe I know, I don't want to go to the weapon store again either. It's a fucking pain in the ass. Oh, okay, gotcha. Also, you're muted, Gavin. You might want to unmute.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Can hear you.
Also, thanks Dasbos Fleisch for the $4.99. Life Invader, private security firms, climate change. I love all the references in GTA. Similar thingy with Cyberpunk. Yeah, I heard that Cyberpunk game was kind of trash. Do you disagree with that, Dasbos? If you're talking about the same one that I've heard of it was like kind of mids. I never played it myself, but yeah, there is a lot of great like little social commentary in GTA. That I enjoy as well. Lots of good little references and stuff like that.
Yeah, Trevor is the best part for that entire thing. I feel like his character is always so concerned about the government and what the fuck is happening, and making references to like the Iran-Contra scandal or like us smuggling drugs into this country, ex-country, whatever, 100%. And also just the existential dread and nihilism that exists within, relatively online people for this generation, I think is something that this game really amps up. It's like, yeah, of course, we're all apathetic and fucking, fed up with all of these things because the world is so fucking corrupt and terrible. Oh, it looks like weird.
Sorry, guys. I had to put it like this so I can see the map. And it
Yeah.
does look like Liam's here. What's up, Liam? How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. I just finished an AMA on Reddit.
Oh, nice. How'd that go?
Could have been better.
Really? Which Reddit?
Yeah.
Which subreddit was that on?
New Deal America.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was cross-posted to a bunch of different other stuff. I didn't get as many responses as I would have liked, but it is what it is. So here I am and chit-chat with you guys.
Fuck yeah. Well, let us know, or let everyone in the audience rather know what exactly you're up to, what seat you're running for, and also just tell us a little bit more about that AMA. I'm super interested to hear about what kind of questions you did get, and if people weren't into it, why?
Well, so my name is D. Liam Dorse, and I'm running for U.S. House of Representatives in Indiana's 9th Congressional District. I'm openly socialist, and I support I support Medicare for all, aggressive climate action, workers' rights, tuition-free public college, the legalization of cannabis. One of the things that I try to do the most is just be a policy-rich candidate. I prioritize people over everything else, including personalities, parties, profits, so on and so forth. So, and this is kind of an impromptu thing. I want to let your audience know that this is impromptu, just dialing in. Yeah, I took off today from work to make sure I did that. Some of the things, that I've been doing out here is just, beating the streets. I'm openly socialist, like I said, and trying to get out there and talk to people about, socialism, try to be a good example for it, because there's a lot of people out there who don't understand socialism, and they don't understand what a socialist is.
Especially in Indiana, I'm guessing, right?
Oh yeah. It blows people's minds whenever I say I'm a socialist. I'm openly a socialist, and they're like, "But you're not evil," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And they ask me to tell them more, and the more I tell them, they're like, "You sound a lot like Bernie Sanders," and I'm like, "Yeah, in a lot of ways I do." And the conservatives, they tend to, the first thing they say is, "Hey, man, your boy got robbed." So, and like, it's usually really, really good conversations with people of all the different ideologies and so on and so forth. And so I get a lot of positive feedback, but, because I'm an open socialist, like the Democratic Party themselves, doesn't really think of me as like a serious candidate yet. Because they don't think that socialism is something that people can appreciate. But the thing is that whenever people hear about, the different ideas in socialism or different socialist ideas, because we're not going to flip right to a socialist economic system, that's a paradigm shift I don't think that everybody's prepared for. But whenever you start to, present some of these ideas, then a lot of people, they become really, really like, wow, that's actually an amazing idea. Why haven't we thought about that? And so, the discussions always continue. But again, because I run socialist, the party doesn't always think of me as like the most serious candidate. But I go out there and I beat the streets every day, trying to, get things done, get the word out. This is my second candidacy. So, I'm hoping to do a little bit better than I did last time. Last time I jumped in, had no name recognition. COVID had just started. Had no money. Didn't know the Democratic political circles because I'm not a true Democrat. I'm a socialist. And I still came in a strong third out of a primary of 5 contenders. And if there wasn't a few ringers in that Democratic primary, I probably would have done a whole lot better. This time, nobody's sharing my lane with me. I am the leftist. I'm the socialist. Even the other candidates, whenever they're talking to, potential voters, the potential voters are like, I don't really like this. I like this, 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 and this. They're like, well, maybe you should talk to the socialist, Liam Dorse. And they're like, we'll do that. So I'm hoping to do a whole lot better.
Yeah. About how many votes do you think you'll need to secure in order to, be competitive in this election?
Well, Well, in the primary, it really depends on how the primary goes out. But to secure it, you would need probably, I don't know, between 20 and 40,000 votes to secure the primary, because the primary, especially in the midterm, is reasonably small. And a lot of people are suffering huge burnout from the presidential election in 2020. I mean, you had Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, and that didn't go great, as we all know. And then, you had Biden versus Trump, choosing between the lesser of the two evils. A lot of people are just tuning out. They're like, well, like, this is going to go the way it's going to go with or without my vote, so why vote? And you have to try to encourage people, like, it's not enough to just vote. You have to get out there and actually, talk to people about things, engage. Try not to blame people for the failures of their politicians. So, a lot of people like to blame like to blame each other over the politicians. Like, I hate to use this, but the worst here, Trump. A lot of their voters were going to be Bernie voters until Bernie lost the primary. Then they were like, I'll just vote for Trump then. Right. And as soon as like a normal voter, like a normal Democratic voter, talks to that particular voter, and they learn that he voted for Trump, they automatically start blaming him about all the things that happened with Trump and so on and so forth. And of course, that person just gets discouraged from even entering the political arena again. They don't want to necessarily talk about it. I understand that that's kind of ironic that you went from Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump, but at the same time, like, some people don't have the information that some of the other of us do, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault. Like, we all pick up information at our own rates and so on and so forth. And we have to. The sad fact is a lot of people just have to trust politicians, because there's not a whole lot of facts necessarily backing up all the rhetoric. And so you hear the snippet of something a politician says, you stick to that, and you vote for him because of that. Like, Medicare for all gets most people for Bernie Sanders, right? Like, they might not necessarily agree with everything else Bernie Sanders says, but that's the one thing that they hear and they key in on and that they want to vote for. So, it's really important not to blame voters, rather than just have the discussions with them, saying, hey, I like this because of this, 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 and this, and I like this because this, 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 and this, and here are the politicians supporting it. And some people agree with you, some people won't. I find it very rare that two people agree with everything straight down the board. I mean, there's little differences even us leftists have, with each other. Like, we all know that leftist fighting is a very real thing. And I would say that most people who identify as leftists are actually hyper politically aware, and they know the issues really, really well. And they know that certain things will work and certain things won't. Like, for example, some politicians will say, I want affordable health care, whereas some politicians will say, I want Medicare for all. Personally, I'm in the Medicare for all portion. But see, here's the thing is a lot of people don't understand the nuance of quote unquote affordable health care. I mean, whenever half of America, like the average individual income for Americans is $36,000 individually. For a married couple, I believe it's $56,000, right? Whenever you're making that, and then whenever half of the people in America are making that much or less, affordable healthcare isn't affordable at all. Like, that's $36,000 a year is that's gross. That's not net. I mean, they're barely making rent payments. They're barely putting food on their table. They're living paycheck to paycheck, and that's literally half of America. Affordable healthcare isn't affordable. The only way to do it is go to some version of universal healthcare. Again, I like the idea of Medicare for all. It eliminates the for-profit insurance and health insurance industry, and puts everybody on the same system. Removes the age restriction from something that's already in place. It's not something we need to test. We've tested it. We would have to expand the infrastructure and expand what it covers, but it's real simple, easy, and it's something that we could transition to right away. It'd be easier than universal healthcare in general. And so, yeah, I have differences with people who say affordable healthcare. I'm like, no, that's not it. But that's the same with like all of us. We're not going to agree on everything, and we all have our reasons why. But it's important, not to blame people for who they vote for, rather than continuing to engage engage them. Sometimes it's going to be hardy debate. Sometimes it's going to be healthy discussion. But if the worst thing you could do is not talk about it, instead of us talking about it, we sweep it under the carpet, and it's becoming a huge problem. I would say the number one problem in America right now is political corruption, corporations taking over, and because of Citizens United and Buckley versus Vallejo, all that is totally messed up. It's legal bribery is a thing, and whenever there's legal bribery and politicians are saying one thing but doing another because they're getting paid to, I mean, whose fault is that? It's the politicians. It's not the people's. So that's really the most important thing that I've learned, is just have those discussions and debates and try to unravel some of these things. There's a lot of people refer to it as derangement syndrome, whatever derangement syndrome. A lot of people are they don't know what to believe. They don't know how to take things. They're scared to give an opinion because they might get attacked over that opinion or who they voted for. And that's not the way things should be. So a lot of people are disengaged. And you got to engage people. You got to say it's okay to engage and bring them back in and talk to them. And that's what I do every day.
Well, thanks, man. We really appreciate you sharing your perspective and your platform here. Was there any other kind of message that you wanted to share with the audience?
Get out there and be politically involved. And it doesn't matter what level that you're at. You could just vote. You could go out there and talk things. You can come in and dial into your local podcasts and have discussions there. But whatever you do, you need to be involved, because the less that we as the working class are involved, the less say that we have, and the stronger the corporate control of our nation becomes. We're effectively an oligarchy right now, and a lot of that is because of us not being involved in politics, not fighting for ourselves. And that's not just a message that will resonate with us leftists, but that resonates across the board. That includes, left to the right and everything in between. Be involved, have those discussions, try to be respectful to one another, because no matter if you're the furthest left person or you're the furthest right person, there's one thing that most people have in common, and that is whenever they're talking politics and trying to get out what they think and show their opinion, they actually do care about where this nation is going. And a lot of it is and just in the discussions. I have discussions with people who they're with far right people all the time, and all it takes is saying, hey, look, I'm not going to blame you for your view. I understand where you're coming from. Let's have that conversation. They hear a little bit about what I have to say. I listen to a little bit of what they have to say, and they're like, and usually their first response is, wow, you're so much different than a normal Democrat. They're like, why are you running Democrat? Why don't you run Republican? I'm like, I'm a socialist.
And just to break in real quick, could you remind us, sorry if you already mentioned this, but could you remind us who the current congressperson in this district is? They're a Republican, I'm guessing?
Currently they're a Republican. It's Congressman Trey Hollingsworth. And he'll be retiring after his term this year. So it's a wide open primary, both for the Republicans and Democrats. So whoever is going to be the next congressperson for the district is going to be brand new.
So you won't be going up against an incumbent?
No, not this time.
Gotcha. So that's going to make it a lot easier for you then. I know it's always a lot more difficult to take out an incumbent, but if he's already retiring, that kind of gives you a lane there. So that's pretty dope. Hopefully you can, get some traction, really speak to the voters and let them hear their message, despite the fact that the media is not going to obviously give you a fair shake. What's your response to people that say that the Democratic Party is just, they're never going to let a progressive like you win, and that maybe running as an independent, for example, would be a better idea? What's your response to something like that?
Well, first of all, I'd be the person asking that question because, again, I'm a socialist. I'm not a real Democrat. People call me a dino, which is kind of accurate. But the reason why I have to run Democrat is it's against the law for me to run as anything other than a Democrat, because I registered for the last few primaries in a row, my own and for Bernie Sanders. So I'm a registered Democrat, so I have to run Democrat. And there's also the thing of the duopoly is strong, that's undeniable, and it's really hard to get anybody in that's third party. And besides that, third party in Indiana, we have one third party on the ballot, that's Libertarian, and Independents. They just always lose, and we want somebody who will win. So, like, I don't like the idea that I have to run Democrat, but it's one of those things of if that's the worst thing I have to do to get wins for the working class, then I'll run as Democrat. And some people like that message, some people don't, and a lot of people would rather I run independent. And you know what? I'm inclined to think that they're right. So
interesting. So if you think that they're right, why wouldn't you run as an independent?
Because first of all, I'm not going to win that way. The duopoly is too strong here in Indiana. Two, it's well, no, that's pretty much it. The independence is something I thought about, but I just don't see it actually getting any traction here. And I would really like to get a third party up. And really, what I would like to get is a socialist party up and running. Because, well, again, I'm a socialist, and there's been other socialist parties that have, or seemingly socialist parties that have tried to pop up over the last couple months. We're not going to mention those specifically, and then we found out that weren't socialists, that were giant grifts, so on and so forth.
Talking about MPP.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. It's been over a year now since they just completely gave up the pretense of even being like a socialist or leftist party, and now they're talking about the woke mob and all this bullshit.
The Babylon Bee.
Yeah.
That's why I believe Ryan Knight left.
Yeah,
is because they were like, no, it's not going to be a socialist party. He's like, peace, I'm out.
Exactly.
Which is kind of whenever I was like, well, I'll just move on. Like I'm not going to move from one non-socialist party to another non-socialist party. That's just shooting myself in the foot. So,
yeah.
It's independent, or it's Democrat, independent, or socialist. That's the way it's got to be for me. And I don't know. Like I said, I've considered independent a few times, but like people need help right now, and not to mention you have climate change. Climate action is absolutely barreling down on us, and it's not. The time has passed to where we can I don't know, try to stand as a symbol for, climate change or whatever the issue is. We have to get in there and be ready to fight right away. Like anything else is the clock's ticking. And so you have to jump in. You have to get something done. You sometimes you just have to pick your battles. That's kind of my stance on that.
Well, cool, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your piece and chatting with our audience a little bit about your platform. Remind people one more time where they can go to get more information, follow you on your quest to candidacy and all that jazz.
Yeah. Again, my name is D. Liam Dorse. If you Google D. Liam Dorse, that's where it'll lead you right there. But my website is dliamdorse.com. And it's got everything from my issues to where I stand on things. Again, I just put out an AMA today. If you guys want to go ask some questions, like I'll answer some late questions. We got the question. We had several good questions today, but most of them were over corruption and what I intended to do about it. And I have some good ideas about that. But again, dliamdorse.com is where you go. And I'm running for the Indiana's 9th Congressional District. So, or U.S. House of Representatives for Indiana's 9th Congressional District.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, man. We wish you the best of luck. And anybody that's listening, feel free to go check out his platform and do a more thorough investigation and hit him up in his AMA. Thanks so much for popping on the stream with us.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks so much, D. Liam Dorse. Really appreciate chatting, and hopefully we'll speak again at some point soon.
Thank you very much.
Of course, man. Peace out. Yeah, that was really cool. Been meaning to chat with D. Liam for a while. Glad to finally do so. Also, I can swear to God that you hit R2 or L2 to like go down in a helicopter, but for whatever reason, it's like not letting me go down. I'm super confused as why I'm only going up. I've played GTA for fucking hours. I don't know what's going on. Maybe now it's working. But yeah, someone in chat tell me how to like go downward in a helicopter. I'm trying to land on top of a building right now. But yeah, I thought that was cool. Liam's a really good guy. He's a great candidate. Seriously, someone tell me how to move this goddamn helicopter.
Yeah, you're supposed to just press the button that you're pressing to go down. I don't know. Why? Yeah, you might have, I don't know, gotten too high. I don't fucking know. Yeah, I was trying to figure out what you were doing. Are you trying to like post on top of a building, or? You also have to aim down while you do it. Yeah, yeah, it's the left trigger. Yeah. Press triangle /Y. LOL.
I am hitting the goddamn L, the L2 trigger.
Man, the game's broken. Mom's gonna have to send an extra order of chicken tendies. The game's not working.
I'm gonna have to jump out of this shit if it even lets me.
Yeah, that's why they were telling you to press the triangle button in the fucking chat.
Yeah, I think there's something going on because I'm pressing triangle right now and it's not even. What the fuck?
Weird. Yeah, it looks like it's fucked.
Yeah, this game is broken, guys. It's not letting me do anything. Oh, it's because I unplugged it.
My controller's not working. It's not plugged in at all. I don't know why nobody can hear me. I just turned off my microphone.
There we go. All right. Yeah, I literally didn't even have the controller plugged in. That's what's happened. That was what was happening. Now I can go down, hopefully. Yeah, that was hilarious. Sorry, guys. I'm a fucking idiot. I was also just distracted by that conversation. But it should be working now, I think. What the fuck? Here we go.
You also just went up way too fucking high.
Well, that's because that's because I couldn't go down. It was just sending me to my fucking death. Oh god.
Now if you press triangle, I think it'll work.
Woohoo! Do I have a parachute?
Yeah, you do. I think he's wearing it.
Yeah.
I know you can just land on. But yeah, sorry guys, this is a little bit of an impromptu second half of the Vanguard. We've never really fucking done a game stream like this. Feel free to provide feedback. We're still working out all the kinks, but I think it's just a little bit of fun at the end of the day to do like a Q&A style of fucking whatever the hell chat we're doing. Gavin trying to get to 5 stars on GTA 5. It would be fun at some point to try and figure out how we can finesse a 2-player game on here. I'll look for one. I think somebody, Brittany, in the comment section recommended Don't Starve, which is like a survival game where we would like try and build a society together and then not die, which I would be down to play that. So maybe I'll look into some things later on today after the stream's over. But really what we're also just doing is we're trying to break our Vanguard streaming record. We've never gone for 3 hours before. I imagine today is our day. We don't play Overwatch because we missed that generational moment. At least maybe Gavin's been playing Overwatch and I don't know about it. I was a big Blizzard guy, and I understand Blizzard's kind of dead now, I think. I don't know. I know that something in the news happened with Blizzard. I don't keep up on like fucking tech bro shit, but when I was a kid, I fucking loved playing WoW, guys. I was a WoW degenerate, World of Warcraft, for people who aren't in the know. But I remember my parents had to put that parental control shit on my computer so I can only play 4 hours a day. And on like Saturday, it would be like 11 a.m. and I'd already be done with my 4 hours. And I'd be like, Mom, you have to unlock it for another 2 hours. So I definitely, at one point in my life, was a serious gamer. I grew up with a GameCube. Really liked all that shit. But then for some reason, just in high school, stopped playing video games, only ever really played GTA 5. So that's why we're starting back. And it's our inaugural gaming stream because Gavin and I already know all of the controls and we only look. Apparently Gavin doesn't know all the controls. I do. He doesn't know how to work his controller. Do I have to keep this plugged in, dude? Yeah. Why isn't it working? I get it. That's all good.
Yeah, another game we're definitely going to start playing soon is Skyrim on here because that's another game that I'm pretty good at. I used to have a profile on Skyrim that was at like level 83. If anyone out here plays Skyrim, you'll know that's like an insanely high level. Like most even serious Skyrim players usually get to like level 60 or something before they just start over. Now I got to level 82 on Skyrim, and then the fucking PS4. It was my ex-girlfriend's PS4. It got like corrupted somehow, and I lost all that fucking progress. So now I'm gonna have to rebuy the game. Obviously, I don't have that PS4 anymore because we broke up. So I'll have to get a new PS4, rebuy the game, and start all over. But you guys can be privy to that. Oh, goddamn it, I died. Those of you who are actually trying to watch us game. And I know it's a little bit fucked up today with the internet cord and everything. We're going to get a better Ethernet cord. So hopefully the frame rate improves the next time we do this. And it's a little bit easier on your guys' eyes because I know the quality isn't 100% perfect right now, but still a fun time. Thanks everyone that's still hanging out. You guys are the real ones. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. One of the other things I wanted to talk about while we were on stream today was obviously people know that we're fucking ginormous film buffs over here. And while we're hacking people to shit with this machete, I wondered if we should really talk about the new movie X, the A24 film that just came out. People who listen to this show long enough to listen to us just yammer while we run around in GTA probably know that Gavin and I are big film guys, particularly horror buffs. Gavin's like an insane horror buff. And we saw this new A24 movie X, which, holy shit, man, probably one of the best spiritual homages to, like, almost like a spiritual sequel even to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, wow, really artfully done. Insane, crazy kills, good vibe, and also pretty well steeped in social commentary, also like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, Gavin, I know you're a big fan of the slasher genre writ large. Did it scratch all of its itches for you and live up to perhaps one of the greatest legacies of the greatest horror films of all time?
Yeah, guys, slasher movies are back in style, 100%. And X, this new movie that's in theaters right now, is absolutely excellent. Zach and I saw it a couple days ago. Really enjoyed this one, guys. As Zach said, I'm a huge fan of horror movies, so it's right up my alley. It's a A24 movie too, one of the best distribution companies. So yeah, just killing it on all fronts. Do you die? Aw. But yeah, really enjoyed X. Definitely, I would recommend it to you guys. And I agree. You know, most horror movies are pretty bad these days. Although I would argue that they always have been. You know, the majority of mainstream movies, regardless of genre, are pretty bad. But if you seek out the diamonds in the rough, that's what it's all about. And that's why we have this. There's this illusion that, like, oh, older movies used to be so much better. Not necessarily. It's just that all the shitty ones have been forgotten. Like, obviously, people only remember and talk about the really good ones. But think about all the terrible horror movies that came out in the 70s and 80s and 90s.
RLM reminds us daily.
Exactly. The amount of garbage out there throughout history is insane. Anyway, yeah, X is a great one. Again, even if you don't like most horror movies, I definitely recommend it, although it is very bloody and gruesome, so fair warning. Also, I see someone is asking about Power of the Dog. I really like Power of the Dog. It's not like my favorite movie of all time, but I thought it was like really, really well made, really well acted. Honestly, I wouldn't be at all disappointed if it wins the Academy Award for Best Picture on Sunday, which is this weekend. They're doing the Oscars. Probably not even going to watch myself, but yeah, some people are saying Power of the Dog could win the Oscar. And like I said, I actually would not be upset about that. It's a fucking great movie. A lot better than your average Oscar bait garbage, stuff like that. So yeah, I wouldn't be at all disappointed if that wins Best Picture. As far as the other movies nominated for Best Picture, there's some good ones. I really liked Licorice Pizza. We talked a little bit about that on our other YouTube channel.
Yeah, Power of the Dog, like, obviously extremely competently made. Jane Campion's a master of the fucking form of cinema. I can't say, like, if I'm being 100% honest, the film moved me like it seemingly moved like a bunch of other people. There were other films that came out this year that I certainly preferred. But yeah,
Sam Elliott camp.
Sam Elliott camp. I don't
remember he came out.
Oh, yeah. I just fucking hate movies about the gays, man. No, like, obviously it was like a beautiful. I thought Kirsten Dunst was like fucking a showstopper in it. I don't know, a couple things. Just Benedict Cumberbatch's his accent, didn't do it for me, but that's fine. I understand why a lot of people liked this movie. Found a lot in it, and that's good. But yeah, definitely. I mean, if we're putting a gun to my head, I liked the movie X that we were just talking about. A good margin better
obviously,
than Power of the Dog. I just think that for me, it's not the type of movie that I love as much. But maybe a lot of people, X isn't the type of movie that they love as much. So, if you're looking for like a quaint, moving, emotional drama, I think you're gonna find a lot in Power of the Dog. And that's not to say I don't like quaint, emotional dramas or whatever. I do. I thought the movie was really well made. I think it was like number 13 or 14 for me out of all the films I saw last year. So, relatively high praise. Again, just out of a lineup of films, maybe not the one that I'm always going to like watch.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, to be honest, it's not like I'm sitting down to rewatch it either. It's pretty long and deep and all that crap. But I do think that it's like its observations and commentary on toxic masculinity is pretty on point. They actually portray it in a very nuanced, interesting way. that I thought really worked, especially on the backdrop of the Old West. So yeah, I really like Power of the Dog. I see someone else mentioning Batman. They say, I saw the Batman after you guys talked about it. It was my favorite Batman. It was fantastic. Yeah, I thought the new Batman was fucking awesome, guys. I know that some people aren't into it, but I thought it was really, really good. I had some issues with like the last half hour of the movie. I didn't really love the way it ended, but pretty much everything up until like the last half hour, I thought was like damn near perfect. Like 10 out of 10, perfect fucking Batman movie. And Robert Pattinson's Batman very well may be my very all-time favorite Bruce Wayne that's out there. Like the Tim Burton movies with Michael Keaton are still my favorite Batman movies. But as far as like an actual portrayal of Bruce Wayne / Batman, I do think Robert Pattinson takes the cake. I don't know, something about him and how damaged he was. Definitely some like emo vibes. I really thought that fit more in line with the actual character of Bruce Wayne than some of like the overly charismatic playboy kind of Bruce Waynes that we've seen played by folks like Christian Bale and Ben Affleck. That's just me, though. I know other people felt otherwise, but I really liked the portrayal in the new Batman movie, and I also just really love the like film noir vibes and the dark, oh god damn it, the dark, moody atmosphere of that movie a lot.
Yeah, and I think that if we're breaking down to elements of it, right, because there have been so many, like multiple Batman masterpieces. I think that actually, if you take every superhero, Batman is the one that's been done the best, the most often. I think we've seen some, because there's a lot of meat to the character. It's not just a guy flying around with all these superpowers. As Gavin mentioned, with this most recent film, what the fuck is his name? Matt Reeves? Who directed this movie? Matt Reeves, yeah, he's okay. So yeah, Matt Reeves. I think that the world that he created, at first I would have, before walking into this movie, I would have said that the Batman Returns world was probably my favorite Gotham, my favorite atmosphere, my favorite like world to inhabit. But I actually think that the hyper Fincherian, emo world that he built for Gotham actually really works, because it does this thing where it keeps you grounded in a reality that could be real reality. Obviously, the Tim Burton Batman's just extremely stylized. His Gotham is extremely comic booky and dark and just Tim Burton-y, right? Especially in the second one, it's even it really ramps up with Batman Returns. So I love that that Gotham, but this one feels like it's a little more cold-blooded, a little more hard-boiled. It's dark and ominous, and it could hold villains that are like real dark villains, where like Danny DeVito's Penguin, is at least a little bit removed from reality, right? He got sent down the sewage and grew up there, right? Whereas like this modern Penguin, which is Colin Farrell, does not look at all like Colin Farrell. He's in one of those like super disguised performances. It's grittier, right? You have the Riddler. He's fucking gritty. He's scary. It's Paul Dano. We compared it to his role in Prisoners, right? He gets really weird and inside his own head. I just love that darkness and the depths that they can go. My only beef with the movie is that I feel like they did Riddler dirty and he didn't have as good of a climax as he should have. They got too caught up in that like fucking forcing Matt Reeves to put that unnecessary scene with the Joker in the spoiler alert, guys, there's a scene with the Joker. Anyway, yeah. I don't know. I really loved it though. Again, like kind of like Gavin said, I thought the last 30 minutes I would have done differently if I was a filmmaker, but the first 2.5 hours create such an interesting world, great shots, interesting camera movements. Felt like a real movie, right? Like somebody was making the point, and connect this back to a little bit more Vanguarding. One of the reasons Gavin and I always bitch about Marvel movies is because literally everything is fake. It'll be like a real door outside and then like green screen, and they just fucking map everything on there. And you'll be like, why are they doing this? Why don't they just use a regular fucking camera and go shoot on location? Because they don't want to pay union people to do that. Hollywood is like fucking clawed up with unions. It's like the last place where you go and you're in the fucking union. Actors are in a union. Key and grip guys are in a union. Cinematographers are in a union. Sound guys are in a union. Okay? They're all in a union. You want to shoot something on site? Yeah, boy howdy, if you're in Hollywood, you better use a fucking union. Otherwise, nobody will work with your studio ever again. There will be strikes. There already were the writer's strikes. You guys remember that? Hollywood is unionized, and they want to break that shit bad. They don't want to pay union wages. And guess what? If you look at the one part of Hollywood that isn't effectively unionized that well, it's the visual effects department. And Gavin, I'll pass this on to you because I know you know the story particularly well. Even the special effects department that were used for, I believe, Oh, what was the Ang Lee movie that won the fucking Oscar? With the tiger and
Life
Richard
of Pi.
Yeah, didn't those people go out of business?
Yeah, there's a documentary called Life After Pi, actually, about the Oscar-winning visual effects department that did the effects for that movie, Life of Pi, and how they basically went under right after losing the Academy Award because of how shit the compensation is in Hollywood, even for the literal, industry standard, top tier Academy Award winning departments, such as the ones that did the effects for that movie. But yeah, it's total insanity. Yeah, 100%. Also, something we were talking a little bit about yesterday is the news that they're officially. Oh yeah, one more thing on the Batman too. I wanted to say before I move on to this. I'm not even a Nirvana fan. Like, I don't even really love Nirvana that much for whatever reason. I just always thought they were like a little bit, like, I don't know. Anyway, I loved the use of that Nirvana song on the new Batman. That shit's been stuck in my head literally ever since we saw the movie. Something's in the way or whatever the fuck. Great fucking song. Great use of it in the movie.
Something in the way. Yeah, not to be confused with the Beatles song. It's very different vibe and energy. But oh shit, I gotta fight this fucker.
Yeah. Anyway, definitely check out the new Batman if you guys are into superhero movies. It's way better than your average Marvel bullshit. Oh yeah, the other thing I was gonna talk about, or I wanted to talk about, was the fact, speaking of movies, is that they're apparently filming a sequel in Australia this year to the best film of 2021, Godzilla versus Kong. Just kidding, it wasn't actually the best film of 2021, but it was one of my favorites. Huge fan of the Godzilla films going back all the way to like the OG ones. In fact, I was actually watching Godzilla versus Space Godzilla last night. Fucking great movie.
Yeah, I remember you sent that meme in our group chat, which was basically just like, wow, we need more of this in Hollywood cinema. And it was just like a man in a gorilla suit holding a big thing, about to drop it on another man in a gorilla suit. It's like, yeah, Gavin will find it because I know he, as he said, it spoke to his soul. Our meme roundup that we do for our apartment is always pretty interesting. At the end of the day, everybody just puts like 4 or 5 of the best memes that they've seen throughout the day. Like I saw some really good Jeff Foxworthy memes today, guys. He put out that super cringy special where he pretends that he wasn't the fucking son of an IBM executive and had his entire life paved for him in a yellow brick road, so he can like moralize and demean people about how people of his generation gave their children participation trophies that they never asked for. But here's the original meme that Gavin was talking about.
Yeah, this is actually from the film King Kong Escapes, which is definitely worth checking out if you're into Godzilla movies. But yeah, I guess we're almost at 3 hours. So when it hits 3 hours, we'll probably dip for today, and we'll just leave you with this meme to look at.
I mean, some people were bitching about the gameplay. We're going to work out the kinks on that and make it a little more effortless and a little bit more natural. We're taking your feedback into consideration, but we already did our entire main show like an hour and a half ago. This has all just been kind of bonus. I did hear back from homie at Eve 6. We had a little bit of a scheduling hiccup, but he will be joining us on our show in the future. I get it. Scheduling's hard. This wouldn't be the first time that one of us fucked up on a scheduling thing. So no worries there. But yeah, people in the chat were correct when they were like, Tender Heart in a Blender guy is coming on the Vanguard. He is. I'm really excited about it. I don't know how many people will know about Eve 6, but he's got a base Twitter account, so I'm telling all of you hardcores to follow him. Yeah. So anyway, and also shout out to D. Liam Doris. I'm aware that his wife is the #1 Secular Talk fan and that he is running for Congress in Indiana. So both of those things are cool. And thanks for coming on our show and our stream and dealing with us as we worked out the kinks, Liam.
Yeah, I forgot to ask Liam, or D. Liam, rather, about his connections with Kyle Kulinski. I know that he's like Kyle's #1 fan or whatever the hell. That's what Kyle always says. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Liam. Really enjoyed it. And yeah, I feel like when we're talking to candidates, talking to people like that, it's really good to do it while we're playing at the same time. That way you guys just have something to look at. It can be kind of annoying, or kind of boring rather, just like looking at me and Zach talk to someone if we're not like sharing our screen and reacting to videos and stuff like that. So, it's nice to just be playing some video games, something up on screen for you guys to look at while we have those kind of conversations that maybe are a little bit more dry. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think. So hopefully more of that coming soon. We'll fix the internet issues. Should be smoother next time. And yeah, go watch King Kong Escapes.
Yeah, peace out, everyone. Oh, also check out the new movie X. If you want to see when I swear to God, one of the best shots in modern cinema history involving an alligator, you go watch that movie.
Yeah, go check out X, guys. Great fucking horror movie. Support your local cinema. If you have one, fuck AMC. Go support your local fine art cinema. But yeah, this is devolved. So we're probably going to jump off.
Yeah, AMC's like Amazon, whereas like if they are playing a movie I like in the Dolby Sound cinema, I'm like, fuck, I want to see it there. But then in my heart, I'm like, you must support the Screenland armor.
Also, I think Gonzalo Music is wanting to know if he should write an album called The Shining Path. Obviously, you should. Of course, you should. Why not? I don't know what else you would call it.
Yeah, man, the Shining Path, the Frozen Jack. I'm kidding.
And also, Liam Doris is saying that if we ever want to do multiplayer, count him in. I can stream with you. That's a thing, right? We can play a game with someone else playing too that's not here with us. Is that a possibility?
Oh yeah, man, that's been a thing since like 2008. You get to just everybody gets on PlayStation Network, and then there's Liam on our stream. Now it'll be easier for us. So for anybody who's not familiar with this, so we just set up like a PlayStation remote from my laptop, and then Gavin's laptop has the StreamYard shit set up. So today we were just screen sharing. But I'm going to read some feedback on how to make it like more optimum and enjoyable for the audience so that we get all those kinks worked out. But honestly, fuck it. Today, I didn't think it was that bad. I think mostly if it was just we need to get an Ethernet cable plugged in for that. But anyway, we'll be all set.
Oh, and apparently Liam Doris's wife is Kyle's social media manager. Interesting. You should tell him to follow us back from the secular... Or you should tell her, rather, to follow us back from Secular Talk's account on Twitter so we can message him and potentially interview him. Liam, that would be awesome. You should put in a good word for us with Kyle. Just kidding. You don't actually have to do that, but that would be cool to chat with Kyle. Just saying, we've been wanting to for a while. Promise we wouldn't ask him anything uncomfortable or that he wouldn't want to talk about.
Kyle, who's hungry?
But just kidding, Liam. You don't actually have to do that. I was just... But that would be cool to chat with Kyle. Just saying, would love to chat with the man. Been watching him for a long time. But yeah, I'm glad that you guys enjoyed the stream. Those of you who are still around, like I said, we will work out the kinks in the near future. Should be back at it soon. And yeah, I think a good format is like we spend the first hour and a half of the stream doing our normal show, and then after that, we'll do some gaming and shit talking. And if you guys don't like it, then you can leave. And if you want to stick around, then you can stick around. I think that's a great formula.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, the first half of the show is not changing. It's not like you're gonna see like freaking, RJ and who else is one of our more frequent guys? Ron Placone on here fucking playing Mario Kart with us when we're having our regular conversations. It'll be more like a post game kind of a show. But yeah. If it's not for you, you can always just stick around and leave in the second half. Mostly Gavin and I just want to play some video games and hang out with people and not be alone. So we'll do it with our fucking amazing audience, all of you fucking Vanguardians. And also, Gavin, I'm pretty sure I figured out how to fix the Patreon thing. So next time we will be able to shout out all of those good fans of the show, those people that keep our bills paid, our lights on, our internet capable of putting this show out for you guys.
Although barely capable.
I know, right? Fucking shit. We have so much shit that runs off the internet. I'm like, wow. Anyway.
But yeah, thanks so much to the patrons. Really appreciate it. Like I said, we're having issues screen sharing right now. For some reason, StreamYard's not letting me share my screen for some stupid ass reason. So next time, I promise we'll do the shout out screen. But yeah, peace out, everyone. Thanks so much for the support. Links in the description if you would like to hit the Patreon up. That's a great way to support the show. And thanks, D-Lorm. That's dope. Would love to do that. But anyway, yeah, thanks so much, everyone. Really appreciate it. Hit up that Patreon link if you want to support the show. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure to hit that like button to help promote the stream and the algorithm. And everyone, have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll be back soon.
Peace out, everybody.